Good evening and welcome to the Litchfield, New Hampshire Budget Committee meeting of October 26, 2023. Let's call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To start us off, do we have any additions to the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none.
Madam Chair, can we make a motion for remote participation, please?
We sure can.
So made.
Motion by Ms. Douglas. Do we have a second? Second by, was that Mr. Leary?
Was any one of three of us?
Oh, Mr. Hayes.
I'll give it to Mr. Hayes, he's the oldest.
Just the general over there.
Thank you.
For, on this one, we can start with, I think, a regular vote, and from here on, we'll do a roll call. Okay, so all those in favor of allowing the WebEx inclusion of Chair Sun, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 8-0-0.
And I am, for the record, I am alone, and I am in Kentucky this week.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Ms. Stevens for filling in last week while I was ill, and apologies for having to miss in person again this week, but this is a trip that has been planned for several weeks, so looking forward to tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sun. And without any additions to agenda, I think we can open this up for public input, and I see quite a few members of the audience. Would anyone like to come up for public input?
Joe Cabral, Brickyard Drive. This is more towards Andrew than you guys. You might want to write this down, because I got some questions for you I want to ask the board.
Okay.
Okay, because I can't do your website, that's what the problem.
Now I'm prepared. All right.
Okay. When you did the school to put out the bid, did you put out a bid for the school, for the, moving the kids around, any of that, or you just went, when I saw it, you only used the guy?
Madam Chair, can I
Okay,
just
yeah.
interrupt here? I don't quite understand why we're
This
having
is
a one-on-one
quick.
conversation with a school board member when this is the budget committee.
Okay, no, you can listen, I don't care.
That's not a matter of listening right now, you're
Yeah.
taking up our time.
Right.
And the rest of these people who
Well-
went in to talk, this is something you should go to the school board.
Well, you go there, you gotta go by what they're doing that day.
Okay, but this is not the venue for you to be having
There
this
are
conversation.
two public inputs during any school board meeting.
Okay.
The first public input, usually at the beginning of the meeting, thereabouts, is related to the agenda, yes.
All right, because that's what I heard.
At 8 PM, right?
Yeah,
Thereabouts, 7:59,
Yeah.
right, 8:05, something like that. Around 8 PM is where we open it up, public input, any topic.
okay.
Yep.
So when's your next meeting?
Our next meeting is next week,
What day?
next Wednesday,
Next Wednesday?
starting at 5:30.
Okay, you got it,
All right?
yeah. And the other thing I caught, I was up at the dealer, remember I was talking about my transmission problem? The Tahoes have got them. That was up there, they're not great. They're trouble.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Cabral.
thank you.
Anyone else for public input?
Thank you. I prepared something, so I'm just going to read it so that I stay on topic. Good evening. My name is Ed Glancy, for those of you who may not know me. I've served as a member of the Litchfield Fire Department for the last 18 years, and I am a Litchfield resident and taxpayer. Last year, I let the inappropriate comments go of another member of this committee. But those comments were something to the effect of the fire department will not arrive in time to save their home, and that the insurance will just replace it. It was an inappropriate and disrespectful comment. Remember, we also respond to medical emergencies, car accidents, hazardous materials incidents, etc. We're an all-hazards department, and we always respond. Mr. Taylor, I wanted to take this opportunity to express my sincere disappointment in your lack of professionalism as a member of this Budget Committee. Your recent and inappropriate comments that you made in a public forum here, I find unacceptable. Referring to our tools as toys, as a way to minimize their significance, is inappropriate. Your feelings on the fire department apparatus and equipment are irrelevant, as you could clearly benefit from some education on the fire service. I don't remember ever seeing you come over to ask clarifying questions or gain perspective on fire department operations or fire standards. Perhaps you should build some knowledge before providing an opinion on what we need and what could be auctioned off. I'm asking that going forward, that you show more respect for the department, a department of people who sacrifice and continue to serve our community without hesitation, like myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to, Doug Nickel, I'm your fire chief, 44 Robin Ave. I would like to address this committee and the negative comments that get made during the public meetings. I understand that you all have a job to do, and I understand the cuts have to be made. I get that. What I don't understand is when board members make public comments and negative, personal, unfounded opinions regarding departments without any knowledge of the subject they are speaking about. The public watching you believe what you are saying is factual and vote against a department budget item based on the information you present. You lack knowledge on a subject that I am glad to provide you if asked, but cannot undo the harm that you caused by providing false information to the public based on your uninformed opinion. The comment Mr. Taylor made last week about you all knowing his feelings on selling off fire trucks and toys and getting rid of a few fire trucks, he doesn't believe they need all that equipment. Well, Mr. Taylor, what fact-based answer are you providing to your open statement? Last year, you asked the same question, and I answered this board. I answered quite a number of times that based on the hazard type of buildings, both residential and commercial, within the town of Litchfield for water flow requirements as well as the various amounts of equipment needed to deal with all types of hazards, which we cover, which include car accidents, water problems, water rescue, carbon monoxide, electrical, medical emergencies, active shooter events, hazardous materials incidents, and I can go on and on. The equipment we carry and the amount of trucks we have are based on the jobs they do. We have 3 engines which carry the necessary fire and specialized equipment, as well as get the people to where they need to go to an emergency. A minimum of 15 to 18 firefighters are required at a fire scene to safely accomplish the multitude of tasks required to extinguish a fire, protect and save life and property. We have a small and a large forestry truck for forest protection. That's a lot of toys, I guess. A rescue truck for medical calls, water rescues, and auto extrication. A tanker truck which supplies water for forestry and large spans between fire hydrants. And now we're actually coming up, we have electric vehicle fires, which are going to be an issue coming forward. And we've already been told to plan on for a hybrid vehicle up to 3 to 4 hours of putting continuous water, and it's very manpower reliant. And if you have an all-electrical vehicle, plan on being there for 7 hours. So if we're tying up multiple vehicles for one car fire, we still have to protect this town for other emergencies, which require multiple pieces of equipment. We have asked the Budget Committee multiple times over multiple years to come down and tour the station so we can explain and educate you all on the equipment and why we have it and why it's needed. Last year, 3 Budget Committee members showed up. Mr. Taylor was not one of them. But you are the most vocal out of this group. As a board, you're making decisions and cuts based on no education about the subject matter. This sends a negative message to the taxpayers on the subject based on your lack of knowledge and making assumptions based on zero information. Please either take me up on the offer to come down for a tour of this fire station, Well, this board should refrain from making negative comments they base on an uneducated hunch or guess. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday in your life you're going to need the police or fire department. And I guarantee, depending on your circumstance, maybe you will appreciate the toys we have. Like you, I take my job very seriously. I am very passionate about what I do, but I don't put you or this budget committee down for what you do. My job is to educate you and the public on the equipment the town owns and the need for it. But you should take the time, as offered by departments, to educate yourself on what you enjoy and seem to take great pride in cutting without any knowledge or understanding of the equipment you fondly call toys. Most of these toys are save property, life, and quality of life when they are used. They are an insurance policy you hope we don't ever have to use. But if we use them, you should be happy, even if it helps one person, because one day that person could actually be any one of you.
Thank you, Chief Nickel. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, seeing no one else coming forward.
I'd like to speak just for a moment.
Yes,
The
Ms.
comment
Race.
that you made, Brian Burke, and I'm calling you out on this only because I think it was inappropriate. A resident came to speak, and you shut him down. Inappropriate.
That's the chair's job.
And I would expect an apology.
I simply told him this is not the venue for him to be talking.
It was the way you said it, not what you said.
The reality is, it's the chair's decision as to what goes forward, not yours.
And I made the comment.
Mr. Bork was right, and I appreciate the support.
Thanks for your understanding, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Cabral, do you have, just on that, do you have the board's email address?
No.
If I write it down for
Give
you,
it to me and I can send it to you.
okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Thank you for working that out. Okay, with that, I can close public input and move on to correspondence.
Okay.
Let me pull this up here. All right, correspondence. Okay, since our last meeting on October 19th, Town Administrator Kim Kleiner sent a memo to highlight changes to both revenues and budgets and a memo regarding the 2023 trending costs within the police and fire department. Also on October 19th, School Board Rep Andrew Cutter forwarded the October 18th School Business Administrators Report. October 22nd, Recording Secretary Matthew Sullivan shared the draft October 19th meeting minutes. Also October 22nd, Chair John David Sun shared the October 26th meeting agenda. On October 23rd, Bookkeeper Heather Sneeman shared the October 23 Town Budget Report. And I believe some more correspondence has come in later today, and we will go over that correspondence at our next meeting. Let's see. Back to my agenda. Okay, and with that, review and acceptance of minutes. Did everyone have a chance to go over the October 19th meeting minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I have a motion to accept.
Second.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Any discussion?
There was a correction that I had requested, and I think that my name was in place of Mr. Taylor's on one of the comments.
Well,
I'm not sure if that's
I
been,
see that.
Ms. Stevens, I did send that to Mr. Sullivan for that
Okay.
change to be made. So the motion should include amended changes that were proposed by Mr. Hayes and sent to Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Burke, would you like to amend your motion to accept
Yes,
minutes
I'll
as
amend my
amended?
motion to accept the changes.
And further, I also had some amendments
Yes, I saw those in there.
that were directly made in the minutes, and I'll just read them for public awareness. So on page 6 of the minutes, it says that Mr. Cutter commented on the first student contract. The contract is about to expire and the district needs to negotiate a new contract. The actual increase of the contract is 19.75% in year one, followed by 6.5% each year in years 2, 3, 4, and 5.
And those were also forwarded to Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
They're in the document. Saw them, there were edits, comments in your,
Yeah, there was a document about a budget in a Google Sheet, so we didn't specifically mention that, although I know you did receive it. So I'm okay to leave that as is.
So all those in favor, or no, roll call vote to accept the minutes as amended. Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Ritter? Mr.
Yes.
O'Leary? Ms. Dunbar?
yes,
I am a yes. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Barca?
Yes.
And Mr. Bork?
Yes.
And Mr. Sun?
Abstain.
We will abstain. Motion passes 801. All right. Thank you for those amendments. And with that, we can move on to town business. And the first thing on town business is the town budget voting. Last meeting, we had made a total of $90,130 in reductions, and then since then, we've had some information come in on our health insurance. Ms. Kleiner, would you mind reviewing some of those changes?
So, if I may, I think I had touched on this last meeting, but I think it bears repeating. So last year when I came to the town, you had already started budgets, you were pretty much through them. And one of the things that I heard from the budget committee was that they felt that there hadn't been a proper review of the budget before it had gotten to you. So this year, we did a process that I'm used to, and that might result in some of the angst that you're gonna feel from department heads, so I think it's important that I note that. They submitted their budgets to me, and we went through them, Karen and I and each department head, one by one. They were forced to go back, they were forced to bring forward explanations for their numbers, and there were cuts made before it even got to the Board of Selectmen. That's what I heard that the budget committee was, expected. That's what I would expect if it was me sitting in your shoes. And then it got to the Board of Selectmen, and we brought forward more cuts, and a lot more cuts were made. So when I said last meeting that we brought forth a budget to keep you at the service levels you are at today, I wasn't just saying it. These department heads have made sacrifices already. And so while I understand the need to cut, and I certainly understand the need, and I respect the tax cap, I do. It is hard when it is now just a level of cuts across budgets to get room underneath the tax cap for warrant articles that quite frankly may or may not come, because the board and I and the department heads are looking at limitations that we have because of fund balance, because of a wide variety of things. So those warrant articles, the board will have to make some really hard decisions. So I wouldn't try to put in a bunch of room underneath the cap for warrant articles that may or may not come, because you're just cutting the money in our budget that we drastically need. So, with that, health insurance. This was an area that we knew, and we told you, we were told a 15.6% increase again, some very tough decisions were made. So I'm not sure if the Budget Committee is aware, there was a meeting with the Board of Selectmen back in May. The department heads and I did a year-long study this past year. Excuse me. And I will tell you that your wage plan from 2014 is drastically out of date according to market level. We did a market study analysis. We brought it forth to the board. I'm more than willing to lend out the binders to anyone who would like to look at it. So when we had the healthcare, there was two things to look at. I can't hit our employees that are already below market value with a 15% increase in their healthcare. So how do we mitigate that? Also, how do we mitigate the cost to the taxpayers? We met with Health Trust a few times, and we came up with what we thought was a pretty level plan. We are changing, and then we brought forth to the Board of Selectmen on Monday night, so you can watch that meeting. A change pretty much across the board. Our HMO, that was a $10 copay, is being replaced with an HMO that's a $20 copay. That's pretty much the only change to the plan, except it causes savings to both the town and the employees. So for employees that stay on that HMO health plan, it's about a 4% savings from where we would be at the increase. So I just want to make that clear. We will go up 15.6 and we mitigate 4%. Right. The POS plan, or point of service plan, that plan was being retired by Health Trust, so we were forced to find an alternative on that. Employees that are going to switch over to the HMO plan, that will save about 7%, or they have the choice now of going to what we call a site of service plan. And the site of service plan is a little different because if you're having surgery or if you're going to get an MRI or some type of specialty, you need to choose one of Anthem's site of service providers for it to be free to you. If you don't, you actually face a $1,000 individual or $3,000 deductible. So if they choose that site of service, and again, this is a plan that costs employees in the town significantly less money, it will save about 25% if you're coming from the POS plan. Then employees that are moving from the HMO plan, the current HMO plan, to the site of service will save about 27%. The other thing that we did was look at the buyouts. And we determined that we were going to keep the buyouts at the 2023 current rates. Two things. Employees that are already below market value aren't going to get hit. They're going to remain the same as they are today. New employees, there's a new buyout schedule. So for your non-affiliated, non-union employees, that's January 1st. Union, and all this is contingent upon the union contract passing. I just want to be clear on that. They would start July 1st because that's their contract year. Those saving, that's new buyout is about 40% less than the current. The reason I have to, let you know kind of in this roundabout way what the savings is our employees now, when we're offering all new plans, now have the chance to sign up for anything. So I can't estimate the exact savings or the exact cost because I need to find out what plans we're gonna choose, right? And so we're gonna bring in Health Trust, and they're gonna educate our employees on the plans. Then they'll sign up for their new plans, and we'll have, better numbers. But what we do know is if they go to what is the highest cost plan, it's gonna mitigate that about $108,000 increase to about 60. So, we thought that was a pretty significant mitigation. But it does require our employees to take a hit, and these employees work very hard and do an amazing job and are already under market value. On the summary tab, we have estimated everything for you. The reason we put the health insurance rate, increase in there as that lump number is just because of what I said. The employees haven't chosen the plans, so we're not gonna go into each budget and change each budget number until we know that information. But you are currently, beginning tonight, 51,000 under the cap.
Thank you, Ms. Kleiner. Somebody turn the air conditioning on. I'm sorry, it always gets me.
Madam Chairman, just sensitive to the audience, right? And I see that we have Police Chief French in the audience tonight. One of the things that came up at our last board meeting was the $70,000 bottom line reduction to police, and I made the comment that what's the impact to the police department, right? And if that's not right, let's talk about that, right? And so, Chief French, thanks for coming tonight. I'd really like to hear your opinion on what that $70,000 impact is to your budget.
Can I ask Ms. Kleiner a question first, and as far as insurance? Is that just for non-union employees, or is that union also?
Contingent upon the union contract passing,
Right.
it would be union employees as well.
But right now, it's just non-union, correct?
The estimated cost is estimated at the contract passing, if that's your question.
Okay,
So
you would,
that's everybody.
okay,
But that number would change if the
If they
contract
accept
does
that
not,
in their
if
contract.
the contract does not pass.
Question though, how many employees in total are wrapped into that plan?
About 29 union and non-union. It's 14 and 15? 14 and 15?
Yes, what, like 17, 20, yeah, probably about 25 to 29.
Yeah.
total, union, non-union?
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
We may have spoke about it last week, I'm not sure. But in regards to the overlay, it's at $30,000, I think, right now. Is there an opportunity to reduce that, or do you feel as though that's a must-have? You know, considering abatements that, you know, possibly could occur and so forth.
For a town your size, with the valuation that you have, it's a right amount, it's the right level to have. Could it be reduced? Yes. The problem is, when you reduce that overlay, you're gonna need it in 2 years. When the reval comes through, guess what? You're gonna need that overlay and probably more. If we keep it at a constant level, it's keeping the budget and the tax cap impact at a level, and it's just going to fall out anyways. It's not as if the overlay is anything that any department could spend. Right? It's just, if it's not used, it's not used.
Right, I'm just looking at the tax cap and so forth. You know, even if there was a reduction from 30,000 to 25,000, you know, just 5,000, would that be all right? And that would just help with the tax cap and perhaps any extra expenses coming down in warrants.
Yes, it's just gonna be like I said, in 2025, when you need to increase that overlay, it's gonna be a hit the other way to the tax cap, because you're not keeping it level. And the DRA, when they go through and meet with Karen and I on determining the tax rate, quite often, they're gonna raise it, or they're gonna increase it within a certain amount, on what they think it should be. So it could be that you reduce it to 25, and when they go to set the tax rate, they bring it up to 35.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Finch, would you like to come up and respond to Mr. Cutter's?
I know, I'm putting you on the spot, so I apologize for that, but.
Oh, I didn't count library.
Well, you did
That's
ask
right.
when we made that.
Sorry, with library.
It's probably about 72.
Oh, with library.
Probably some interference between the electronics.
Forget that.
That buzzing noise in the background.
So I'm Mike French, I'm your interim police administrator. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Essentially, just to remind this committee of what Ms. Kleiner spoke of earlier, putting together our budget was a rigorous process, especially as it related to the previous year and the significant reductions that were made at that particular time. We put forth a budget that we felt was appropriate to maintain the level of services that the community has become accustomed to, as well as making sure that we were very aware of risk management, training, and attempts to reduce risk. Based on those approaches, we presented a budget to Ms. Kleiner, who took a very sharp pencil to the work that we did, made some significant adjustments before it went to the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen got their sharp pencils out and made additional adjustments so that it is essentially a bare bones budget that we had presented to this committee prior to your most recent work. Essentially, 70,000 across the board reduction is essentially a body, and it is a entry-level body without giving us any opportunity, should we be able to attract somebody that's got some prior training and experience. They're not going to come in at an entry level salary. So there's no wiggle room there. The coverage to the street comes first. Without that body, our crime prevention efforts, our attempt to have more interaction and presence in the school is affected. So essentially it's a body. Everything else it's bare bones.
So to recap, what I'm hearing you say is that $70,000 reduction that was made is a reduction in force to the police department.
It would be a reduction in our allocation, our funding for our approved allocation. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
So when we were looking at making changes to the agenda, I realized that we probably we can move road agent and road maintenance to the beginning, so that Mr. Brown, if you'd like to head home later, or earlier than later, and I think there might be.
I'm already sitting there. So.
Right? I'll take that as yes. So as long as there's no other discussion about previous meetings cuts, we can all take the department feedback into account.
I'd like to add police back into tonight's discussion, but it can be wherever it fits into the agenda.
I would think, as long as the committee is okay with that, we can do that immediately after Mr. Brown's.
Would you like a motion for that?
Um,
I'll
yes,
make-
yeah, I think
I-
we should have a motion for that,
Make
yeah.
a motion to add police back into this week's budget review cycle, please.
Motion by Mr. Cutter, second by Mr. Leary.
In my view, it's worth having another board discussion after the presentation from the chief this evening.
Would anyone like to also discuss fire after their comments? Add fire back in.
Mr.
I'll make
Leary
a
and I
motion
voted
to add
no to
fire.
those cuts, so.
Make a motion, do you want to amend,
To add fire after police?
add fire, yep.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to amend. Add fire. By Mr. Taylor. And a second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion? No? Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
For police or fire?
Or to amend the motion to add fire as well.
Fire and police together?
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
It's a yes for Mr. Hayes? Mr.
Yes.
Cutter? Yes?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
Sure. Yes.
I am a yes.
I just,
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Barca, Mr. Bork,
Yes.
and Mr. Sun.
Yes.
Right, motion carries 9-0-0.
be an interesting conversation.
And now motion to add police and fire. That was the amendment. Now the motion to add Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Cutter, Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Mr. Bork.
Yes.
And Mr. Sun.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0-0. And with that, I believe we can continue on to 4311.10 road agent. Keep this here. Do we have any discussion on our road agent's budget?
There's not a whole lot here, so. Your electricity down would be great.
Well, yeah, instead of shutting the lights off earlier, work in the dark.
Does anyone have any motions on our road agent budget?
No action.
No?
Not currently.
All right. So with that, we can move on to 4312.10, road maintenance.
Take your time.
Does anyone have any motions towards our road maintenance budgets?
Are you still, just while you're sitting here, Mr. Brown, are you still thinking that we'll need another position on your department? And will we expect perhaps to see another warrant article for that position?
It's in the air right now. We would very much like to have another person. Stormwater management and asset management is really kicking our butts with time. So within, if not this year, next year. I guess we'll discuss what the impact of that would be, if a warrant was to go out.
Okay.
So, I do have seasonal money, so I guess, if you think about it, if we put on another employee, some of that money for the seasonal employees could be allocated towards that. And then we have talked about taking on cemeteries, library maintenance, and reducing their costs for maintenance if we got another fourth person to kind of, supplement.
Like that, yeah.
But I guess right now, we're kind of waiting to see how all this fans out before we make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brown, at what point did you hit a tipping point? I think you had made the comment that it's killing you right now as far as, stormwater management, wastewater management, et cetera. At what point did that happen? And was there a particular development or multiple developments that put you over that tipping point?
Well, stormwater management, it definitely it ramps up. So we're in year 6, and every year they add more. It gets larger.
Meaning government entities add
Government
more
entity,
requirements,
federal
or
requirements.
more roads and more developments cause more?
No, any developments, which we've had a few, and we have some coming in, absolutely add to it. Any road miles definitely adds to our workload. But the stormwater management at this point is starting to stress us in time. Right now, we're doing an asset management. We got a grant for it. We have tablets where we go out and we geolocate all of our catch basins. Now we're adding piping. We have over 900 catch basins in town. We've got thousands of miles of piping, and that's measuring them, categorizing them, where they go, where they end up, outflows, everything. So it's super time consuming, super time consuming. That's 2 guys. You can't have one guy do that. You need 2 guys because you're opening a manhole and you have to have the safety factor. So that is really, taking up a gobload of our time. Is that a word? I'm sorry.
It can be now.
A lot of our time. But we, we're making it happen, we're getting it done, but other stuff like getting our trucks ready for winter is suffering a little bit. We're kind of behind on getting everything up to speed. We'll be ready. But, it just, everything that gets added on, and every year with this stormwater management, more gets added. There's another factor, and, this testing of water and stuff that's, it's new to us. So when it actually went tipping point, the beginning of the summer, from a three guy to 4 guy, I would say is when it's began. So we're kind of new into it. The more guys you have, the more services we can offer, and the faster we can offer it. And the other commissions and boards we can help. We do a lot of cross-board help. You know what I mean? And if I don't have the manpower, I'm going to have to say no one day. You know what I mean? And I don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. If we can handle it and we can take care of it, then it costs that department or that board or that commission less money.
Can you give maybe 1 or 2 examples of
Right now
the cross-department ones? 'Cause
Right now
one thing I don't see is then a reduction in these other departments that you're providing services to help.
No, I think of a lot of it is stuff that they'd end up doing themselves or having, volunteer parties for, and they may not get it done as expedited as fast. Right now with the new head on the tractor, we're mowing underneath the rope course down at Dara. So, by the end of this month, it should be clear from the snack shack to softball to the water. Should be able to see the water. That's just one. We do mow for conservation. We do Parker Park. We do the across from the fire station. You know what I mean? So we do other mowings, and that's cross department. And then I'm sorry.
Removal of bittersweet from the cemeteries too. That was a cost that
we went in and we moved the bittersweet. We found 4 headstones that we didn't know we had. But that's stuff we love doing. We don't have a problem with it. We also cleaned up the tree there between the cemetery, and that was a lot of work. But we don't mind doing that, and we like doing that. We like being able to do that. But when our work starts to get compromised because of that, I'm at a point I'm going to have to say, sorry, I can't do that.
But if you've got 2 more heads, how many particular outsourced services maybe, and I don't know, maybe recreation, field maintenance is that something
that's a whole
possible?
specialty in itself? And TLC does Natticook does a great job at that. Ryan Lane, he knows his job. For us to take over that, someone would have to be certified in fertilizer, which is a state mandate, which we're not. We're not landscapers. We can cut stuff and we can make things come down, but we're not landscapers. You know what I mean? To make us into landscapers, we need different equipment, we need different training, which is fine. You know what I mean? And we'd be more than happy to. But taking over the fields like that is a whole nother animal. That's a whole ground maintenance division, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
It could be done. You want to spend some more money, we could do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But not for what the contract he's doing it for.
Okay. And then Ms. Kleiner, kind of following up on the original question of Mr. Brown, do you feel, or how much inadequacy is there in tax revenues from these developments? You know, we heard tonight already, you know what, if you want services level, yeah, we have more houses. And our staff is underpaid, but we have more houses. And it seems to me that the more developments we have, the more tax we're putting onto these particular departments and asking for more manpower. In Mr. Brown's case, there's more basins and other things that he now has to take care of. Do we feel that we're adequately getting the tax revenue necessary from these new developments to offset the amount of financial pain that these developments are putting, or this additional footprint is putting on our town?
So additional tax revenue from new developments, or I'm gonna talk,
Like a new development, okay, so we
take it-
build a street that has 10 houses on it,
Mhm.
right? How much more tax revenue are we getting out of that, and is that keeping pace with the fire department, the police department, the roads? I don't think it is, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here every year crying poor. I mean, you know, honestly, I mean, I understand what you said in terms of, you know, and I think there's a couple of different equations to look at. How do you get people paid the proper wage? But last year, I was specifically told multiple times during this that, well, you know what, if we vote to get the tax cap to go up 5%, versus if we had just done 3, that would have given you the ability to grow from the 175 it was at. Now we're at 5. We're barely at 5. Mr. Brown needs more people, and we're gonna revisit police and fire cuts that were done last week. And if those all happen, guess what? We're back up over the cap, which was supposed to be no more than 5%. The system is broken.
I agree completely, and, so what I'm saying here does not necessarily reflect the opinion of the board, and I just want to make that clear.
Applaud you for going out and doing that.
Bob's like, oh no, what you gonna say?
Plug your ears. Plug your ears.
There was a reason I sent out the pie chart with the press release on the tax rate. The system is broken. So normally, and I'm gathering a whole bunch of data that I bring forth to the board, and then I'm sure you wouldn't mind sharing. Normally, your schools, and when I mean local aid and state aid, should be about 65% of your tax cap, or your tax rate. Did anyone look at the pie chart? Yeah. Problem. So, our local
I'm not liking where you're going on this one, though. 'cause
is
There's
so
one way
low.
to include.
But as a portion of the tax rate, it's low, right? And that's probably been done for a reason. Number one, had $175,000 tax cap for many years. Number two, you've tried very hard to keep services within people's means. And so we understand that. But now the town's growing. And so 8,500 people is not a small town in the state of New Hampshire. And we're racked. Like, you're at your max. You've reached your max. You don't have any capacity. You don't have any capacity in planning to deal with the new developments and the new things that are going on. You don't have capacity in highway to deal with these new regulations that are being passed down by the state. You know, I'd say probably the best departments you have, and it's not because they're any better type of employees, but it's amazing what Karen's group does with, you know, just she and Heather. It's amazing what the town clerk does, but what happens when 300 new people come in and they all have 2 or 3 cars to register, right? What happens? So you're at a point where you've reached your max capacity for town services. There's just no pull
So
here.
we start saying no. Like, we start putting brakes on stuff.
That's
We
out of
start-
my
No,
wheelhouse.
it
not
sounds
my
like we need to have a
decision.
conversation with the planning board about what we're approving, then if we can't service it, we shouldn't have it.
I do want to say, though, that I didn't get the impression that 5% was going to fix everything last year. I got the impression that that was what was felt the max that could be asked for. And we knew that ambulance contract was going to be way higher within the next few years. We knew that inflation is going to be, it wasn't just going to stop after last year. So I fully, at least I fully expected it to be, yes, the 5% is ideal, but the next few years are going to be tough. I didn't see it as a fix.
I think we also had discussion that just because we're setting it at 5% doesn't mean it has to go up 5%.
Correct.
Yes,
And,
absolutely. But
it-
this year,
and next year's
certain
gonna be,
years,
every
right.
year's gonna be the same. And it
Every
goes
year
back
we're
to-
gonna have the same things, like,
But it goes back to what Mr. Taylor asked, the question he asked is like, are we getting enough from these new developments to keep the service level? We talked about this the last meeting, right, as far as like permits and just different things that where we can get more revenue.
And so we're gonna look at the revenues, and to be honest, it's not a discussion that I want to have right now. I don't think it's fair to the residents. They just got hit with a tax bill, with a tax increase. I want to do a lot of research, and the department heads have already started doing research, pulling other towns, the same way we did the wages last year. That took 8 months. Research, best practices.
right.
So I don't see that discussion coming forward to the board until spring. And that's when we'll sit down, probably before we work on the 2025 budget. And it will be up to the board, but we will try to give them enough data to make informed decisions.
So can I ask the question differently? Is there a formula as far as, let's take Firefly. How many houses on Firefly? 15. And I'm gonna just venture to guess that they're probably paying $9,000 each in taxes on average. Be my guess. Is there a calculation as far as per house, what it costs for all the services for this town? That's a big chunk of
So-
change for one road.
Yeah, but 74% of it isn't coming to the town.
I realize that. But I'm asking if there's a calculation for in town, what it costs like per household, like before that road was built. And now all of a sudden we build that road, are we getting enough revenue from that new development?
So normally, you would say whatever your tax rate is, the portion of your town services should be between 30 and 35% of whatever your tax rate is. That's what all of the studies have shown in order to supply give you significant services on the town side. And that's not what we have.
So I think to Mr. Burke's question though, like if we're putting in new roads, why are we not asking for them to provide a new truck, a new plow? Why not if we have?
All figured into impact fees.
Yeah, but yeah.
Tax them more.
Well, we should
But
find.
operational costs are gonna
Yeah.
kill us.
But
The
if
second that then you need another fireman, or you need another policeman, or you need another highway person, you know what? That cost never goes away.
No, I agree with
and
you.
to Mr. Burke's point, if I've got, 90,000 coming in for that new development that's going to go into the operational cost, 90,000 doesn't spread to all those people.
So I think,
You're
in
right.
my view, this is an important conversation to have, no doubt, but we're not gonna solve it tonight.
no, but I would.
That's fine.
No, but I would
Can I just ask
encourage,
one
like-
more question,
Yeah,
Mr. Brown?
absolutely.
All right, because I have a feeling that the police and fire cuts that were made last week are likely going to get overturned, just for the fact that it was brought up, so I'll just ask you the question that, so, under trying to make sure that everybody kicks in their piece of it, if I was to say to you, I'm cutting $18,000 from your road maintenance, what does that equal?
I'd say, what do you suggest service that I cut? That's what I'd ask you.
Yep.
Because my budget is flat. I have not increased my budget. 0. Well, where are we?
Lowered.
We're low.
I think then it starts to get creative around,
had
okay,
a
well,
question about
maybe
that
we
one.
offset some.
I can
catch basin.
stop putting stop signs up. I can stop plowing in December. No, I'm kidding.
No, I know.
No, I mean, honestly.
Those stop signs,
I
do I
mean,
have to stop?
They don't use them anymore.
Stop now.
Right? You could turn Hillcrest into just a one-way stop. I could save 2 stop signs. It's bottom line. You can cut anything you want. I'm still gonna go out and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna, and service is gonna suffer. Somewhere I'm gonna have to cut something.
Right.
So,
What it is, it depends on which culvert falls in or which catch basin I can put cones around and not fix. I mean, from last week, I heard there was a 2% across the board, and I was expecting to come into that.
That's what your 18 would have been.
And I'm gonna tell you, that's not fair. All right? Because I didn't increase my budget. If I knew you were gonna come at 2%, I would have increased all my lines. And I would have come heavy.
Okay. And I guess then the other thing is, ultimately, we have to take a look at it department by department.
I would
But
hope so.
ultimately,
I would
the
hope
town
so.
administrator can then reshuffle, well, you didn't go up any, so therefore you're not taking that cut, but that 18,000 would have to come from someone
And I'm
else.
not trying to take away
No,
from
no, I know.
fires, because believe me, we talk quite a bit, all of us, and I firmly believe what they want is what they need. You know what I mean? And I understand it's hard. You take 2% from us, and with inflation 8%, our buying power is gone.
Right.
Now we're at 10% below we were last year. Then I'm praying, as a citizen, that the default budget hits.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't vote for the budget. But look at it. Tell me what you think. We've gone year after year. We've gone line by line. If you think I have a fat line, you tell me and I'll explain it to you. I don't have a fat line. I'll be quite honest with you.
And I completely agree. I mean,
I
it was
know.
hard to scramble through each one last week to be able to figure out where you could find it, but ultimately it was gonna have to be found, otherwise we were gonna be over the tax cap, so.
Like I said, you know what I mean? If you ask me to burn something, I'll cut it. But service is gonna suffer. Something's gonna suffer. We're not gonna paint lines or something. You know what I mean? And then you're gonna get the complaints, and I'm gonna forward them to you.
so I had one
Can we
question.
forward it to everybody that complained about the tax increase? Because ultimately, that's the circle. Like, this
I live
isn't
in
the
town.
place
I live
to
in
go
town
yell
and
at why did you do this or why did you do that? Because ultimately, you know what? You gotta look at the full circle, and you know what? Yeah, for you, it hurts, because then I can do less, but I'm also getting hit with a big tax increase personally. Like, you get the double-edged sword.
Right. And Kim and I had big discussions on this healthcare, because it affects us as employees. You know what I mean? And we went round and round for a good week. Yeah, we can cut. I can cut, but it's gonna affect what we do. What we did this year, we're not gonna get done next year. It's flat out. And, I'll have to choose, hey, if we get a bad winter and I get 21 storms instead of 12, I'm gonna roll after January, February. I'm gonna roll into, April, May with way less money.
Right.
So.
So I had a question. So it looks like one of the big reasons why your budget came in low is because the vehicle lease had been paid off.
Yeah,
And there was,
28,000.
right, and there's a discussion potentially about replacing another vehicle at
Yeah.
2,000. So are we truly looking at a reduction, or do we anticipate that we're gonna see a new lease?
Well, as of right now, we have a grant proposal in through the state, hopefully to replace 2 trucks, 2 large trucks.
Well, I appreciate you looking for grants. I think that's fantastic to look for alternative revenue
And I
sources.
have to say it looked good, but from what we're hearing, that there's a good possibility that hopefully at least get one.
Well, thank you for doing that legwork.
So, and she wrote the grant.
Well, thank you for doing.
I just gave her numbers, she wrote it.
As a taxpayer, I appreciate that.
It's hard, and you can take a look at the grant, it's 25 pages, it's a lot of information. So we're working that avenue. Hopefully, if that came through, then no, but we'd still have trucks. smaller trucks, our F-350 with 108,000 miles with a slip-in transmission. How much money do I put into it? It's a 2015, it still has some value as a trade-in. You know what I mean? It makes sense, you know what I mean? And we've spoken in length, we should have some kind of an overall fund for vehicles in town. Towns like Bedford, we spoke about it the other day, towns like Bedford, every year they get rid of 2 vehicles at 8 years. So as soon as a truck hits 8 years, it goes out the door, they get a new one, and they just revolve. And I'm not looking for electric windows and air conditioning. We just want trucks so we can plow, so we can haul asphalt, and you know what I mean, to do the job. We try and get the best price we can. You know, if I can, I build them, you know, as off the state bid. But we need to look down the road at that.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
We've talked about it.
We've been talking about that for years.
And trust me, I jumped up and down when she told me we couldn't keep the 28,000 in to move on to another truck.
Because I think it would be, because my understanding with the bids, like, if you have the money on hand, then you can put the bid in. If you don't have the money on hand, it may not be there come March, April. So it'd be nice to be in a position where I see a truck I need, it's within a reasonable price range, I have the funding source available.
Right.
So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one, and I am.
That's a whole nother.
I'm glad it's a conversation.
It's not gonna get fixed here, but we actually should have an in-depth discussion about that.
I like what you're talking about.
And, you know,
If it wasn't a lease, you could keep it in, like with the police cars. If it was you're purchasing a truck,
right,
you could keep it in, but a lease has to go to warrant,
right.
So it has to come out.
Well, I like that we're discussing a method, because as you know, one of my biggest beefs is how reactive we are. I'd like to be proactive. Recognizing that the first couple of years suck because we've been reactive for so long, you have to take that first step. But a movement towards a more sustainable plan, I'm wholeheartedly.
Vehicles are our largest expense, same probably with fire.
So let's stop talking about it and start doing it. Let's start putting some teeth into it. Like every year it's the same. For a dozen years, it's the same damn conversation,
Because
right?
it's not a warrant article that the budget committee is ever going to be able to vote in favor of. So let's just
No,
put
but
that
I will
on the
be out
table
there
right
talking
here.
about how awesome it is and how much I would love to vote for it, if only for the tax cap. But I'd like to have something I could talk about.
Anything else for Mr. Brown?
No.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's
birthday.
Thanks for coming.
Oh,
Happy
yeah.
birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, great.
And as always, thank you guys for what you do, and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
You do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's move on to, if we could call back Mr. French for the police.
Yes, please get him home.
Police administration.
Yeah, you have code enforcement here.
Mr. French, you're back up.
We're going to start with Mr. French because he's the most expensive.
Well, from that
If
perspective,
Mr.
yes,
Brown
if
wasn't
he
already
gets
sitting there, I would have.
It's that logo.
Yeah, but if you choose it all up, then there's no money left.
Yeah, if you don't have any money at the end.
That's right.
So just to keep moving, Madam Chair, and thanks for, in committee, thank you for voting to have the conversation again. So the $70,000 on the table for the motion for last week, after hearing the chief's explanation about a potential where, if I agree, tough decisions have to be had, and tough conversations have to be had, right? I fully appreciate that. But at this time, a rift in our police department, I don't know that makes sense, right? I don't know where the gap or where we're gonna make up that number from, bless you,
Thank you.
right? Because I understand fully the tax cap issue. I don't know where that comes from quite yet, but if the board is directing a reduction in force at the police department, I don't know that that's the angle.
There's no riff.
We didn't make a
Thought we
riff.
discussed attrition.
We're 85% of the way through the year, and they've spent 40% of their budget. 33. No, I'm sorry. They have 33% of the budget left. There's over $500,000 left in wages and benefits. They're not spending the money.
They can't hire.
They can't hire. We're all of a sudden going to hire all these positions and use all that money. Like, I just don't get it.
Fair point.
It's like they do the same in the school. They're going to cut $200,000 off the bottom of the school budget, right? Because they know there's going to be attrition and they're just not going to fill the positions. Like, that was my reasoning for voting for it. It has nothing to do with riffing a police officer. There's no police officer there to riff.
So my sort of thought was, we start there, and then as we see where we are with the tax cap, potentially add back into each of these budgets that we've taken from.
But recognizing it's a bottom line budget. If we make a mistake on one department,
Yeah.
hopefully, there'll be enough money left over.
And I would think too that there would like support from the budget committee on a contract, and if the contract comes in, we're only 50,000 under, right? Do you want me to vote no on a contract for the voters?
We're not 50,000 under.
How much are we under at all?
Yeah, you are.
That's
Right.
with,
But they're okay.
With the changes they made.
which they haven't made yet.
So
It
presumably,
still has to go to the union. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
based on the information I currently have available,
Yeah.
that I was, if they want me to support said contract, I still need to be able to have the room to do that, right? So.
stand, but I mean, those
Where- so
savings,
where
those
would the money come
savings, those savings don't exist at this time.
Okay, so.
Hoping they do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Mr. Sun, did you have something to add?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Ms. Stevens. I obviously did not get a chance to vote on this last week. My thoughts are similar to Mr. Marquez at this point in that I don't view this as a reduction in force, which I would not be in favor of a reduction in force. I view this as we have positions that are not filled right now. I would have supported this vote last week. I also want to say, I think it's really important to state this, that, we have an opportunity to come back and revisit this all the way up until early February. So these conversations and discussions can continue. I think it's always good to revisit this and always good to hear the potential impacts of our cuts. But I think right now, I don't view this as a reduction in force. I view this as we're making cuts for positions that simply aren't able to be hired at this time.
The description says new officer never filled. So I mean, we factor that in with the healthcare and all the other benefits associated with it. Like, it's not saying new officer to be hired on, it's never filled.
So would anyone like to make a motion on police? Or is there any more
I
discussion?
just think
Yes,
it's,
Ms.
we're not minimizing the need for it, it's just.
So I think when we say a reduction in force, the fact of the matter is now we're getting more response than ever. So we've hired 2, soon to be 3, police officers. So, and we know that the SRO officer is important. So we're really working towards full staff. But if there's $70,000 less in next year's budget, one of those positions is not gonna get filled. Because we're not gonna be able to take the gamble that we won't have more overtime or we won't, and things, it's gonna be too tight with $70,000 less, so we're gonna keep one position unfilled. That's
Can I
a
ask
risk.
a question a different way then? Right, so fantastic that we're having a spike in interest for the open positions. That's amazing to hear. Is that now an opportunity to reduce our overtime that's planned for next year?
The overtime wasn't based on
Yeah.
the current situation,
Right.
so.
Cannot predict that specifically because there are so many factors that go into that, and the biggest one being if we find the ideal candidate who is not certified, they now need to go to the academy. So that spot on the street coverage or whatever is still open for a period of time. If we find the ideal candidate who is already certified, we reduce the time from the academy from 16 weeks down to essentially 4 or 6 weeks. And then you can put them right into a shift, him or her right into a shift. So I can't give you a
Depends.
specific.
Okay, thank you.
Depends on who we get, level of training, experience, certifications, all of that.
So with that, and based upon the comments from some of the other board members this evening about waiting for a few weeks for this to play out, waiting to see who we hire, the credentials that these individuals hire, maybe we have a better position on what that's actually going to look like by waiting a few weeks.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, the overtime's going up by The proposed over last year's budget, it's up $90,000 alone.
Which
So
is a lot.
now, if all of a sudden you're fully staffed,
Right.
you need an increase of $90,000 in
I mean, the whole
overtime?
point, the whole selling point, right, of adding the officers.
Was using the SROs in the summer to cover vacation?
Yeah, to reduce overtime.
Yeah.
Right, but we don't have it, so.
But
we
if you
can't.
do-
But if we do have it,
Yeah.
then yes. But, I mean, so we're trying to be realistic. We can't go over budget, right? There is no such thing, as really going over budget. So we have to be realistic with, give us ourselves a cushion in the overtime for the positions that we're filling up. But that might not be there right now.
Okay.
And then realistically, you know, because would we love experienced officers? Yes.
So,
All of you, all of them out there,
Well,
please come see
Depends
us.
which side you're on.
so one
But-
question would be, like, we're talking about $70,000 here. We have available, if all the stars align and everything gets approved, of $50,000. So where would you're still not even, we can't fully fund 70,000 anyway, let alone the other departments we'd love to fully fund. So where would we propose to take the reductions? If you don't like ours, where should we take it?
I think that's a wait and see.
But I'm saying, like, we can't even, like, even if we'd want to give him 70,000, we can't necessarily do it. So who gets the impact?
Two officers that were just hired, they're both certified, or are they going through the academy?
Excuse me. One is certified, one is not. So the certified one is essentially pulling a shift now.
Right.
Be it midnight, but it's a shift. The other one is in
Absolutely.
field training.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third that we hopefully get approved by the board very shortly is not certified either. So we want to send that person to the academy as quickly as possible as well.
That's a 3-month process, or?
At about 16 weeks once it starts. Okay.
But you're based on the schedule, right? We can't say, oh, we're approve them next week, send them off, get some of it out of this year's underspent budget, right?
Yeah, no, it's approved now. Got to hustle the paperwork in so that they can go in January. The academy is state-run, and you're at the mercy of their schedule, not ours.
Anything else for Mr. Finn?
No, it's done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone like to come up next? Mr. Nichols, Mr. Blackwell?
We did him last week, right?
Okay,
Yeah, we did code last
so
week.
let's go back
Hi
to,
again.
hello again,
We did, yeah.
if we can go back to.
But
have
I
to-
can make this real
4220.
easy for you. I'm not asking for any of the money back that you've cut out of my line items. I just solely wanted to make my point about the process. I have no problem waiting till next year to buy a thermal camera. I just think that before you go making decisions, you ought to be educated on what decision you're making and why you're making it. I know there's a question about thermal cameras, and I heard somebody make the comment about, well, you only use them at fires. Well, thermal cameras are used every day of the week. If I go out for a smoke investigation, if we go for carbon monoxide, if we go for gas leaks, missing people, which we've had a lot of suicidal people in town, and in the last couple of years, we've actually aided the police department by using our thermal imaging cameras. It takes more than one, excuse me, it takes more than one camera. You send 2 or 3 people in the woods looking for somebody, does you absolutely no good with a flashlight if you don't have a camera. We're almost upon chimney fires. When we go for a chimney fire, or if we go for electrical odor in a house, we use the cameras so that we can find where the hot spot is, so we can either say, yes, it's an electrical issue, or no, there's a fire in the wall. We use them all the time. The camera that you were asking about, that I'm asking to replace, is 21 years old. We bought it in 2003. It was the first camera that we bought. And I believe from some of the stuff that I was reading today, some of it was funded by, there's what we call the Gene Fund. We had a person that had experienced a fire in town. They left some money to the fire department. We used that money to do replacements of the thermal imaging batteries. And it was kind of like a revolving fund that we had used for a while so that we didn't have to impact the budget. In 2000, I think it was 15, we came before you and asked for another thermal camera. And actually the members of this, well, not this budget committee, but the budget committee came down to the old fire station. I was asked by Chief Freitzel at the time to go over the difference in cameras. I showed the old technology, the new technology. And it was actually you people, the budget committee, that said, why are we only buying one? Why aren't we buying more than that? And we said, well, because we're trying to be fiscally responsible and buy one every couple of years. And you guys actually were like, no, you need two, let's get two. And we did. So the camera that I have no problem waiting off on. I did look up, and you want to try and standardize what you have, because in darkness, there's nothing worse than trying to remember which camera you had and where the buttons are and everything. I did find a camera today, or actually yesterday, that's about $8,000, and it's the same, different version, but same brand as what we're currently using for the other two cameras. But again, I know you have to make cuts, and I have no problem waiting until next year. Like I said, I just want to make sure that if you have questions, I have absolutely no problem answering any question you have, explaining why we do what we do, why we have what we have, and like I said, that's what I'm here for. But I'm not asking for any money back. As far as the CERT team, I needed startup money to buy stuff. I'll make do with what I have and try and get what I can. But that's an important thing. Right now, you have the police department that don't have enough personnel. There's parades and things that we need to do to keep people safe. Even when the road agent was here, like he was saying, if they're cutting down trees, during a storm, they need to have safety people. If his guys aren't available, you can use CERT team people to be flaggers. But I don't think that it's right that we're asking somebody to volunteer their time to be on a CERT team, but we're not going to provide them the equipment to keep them safe. It's a very small investment for what we're going to get out of it. A CERT team usually, depending on where you go, Londonderry, different surrounding communities around us, they have about 30 members. It's volunteer. It's like the fire department. The fire department is made up of subgroups. You have a hazardous materials group. You have an extrication group. You have a fire group. You have a medical group. A CERT team is the same way. The CERT team, you can have flaggers. You can have a separate group for search and rescue. You can have another group flies drones or something to help locate missing people. So just because you have a 30 or 40 member CERT team doesn't mean that when you activate them, you're activating 40 people. You activate the group that you need. So if I need 3 flaggers, the only thing that's getting activated is 3 flaggers with their equipment. And this is something that's in its infancy stage. So we're going to start out a CERT team for right now doing flagging, and maybe I have a couple people interested in doing drones. During the open house that we had, I had about a little over a dozen people that are interested in getting on. They want to help. And I have at least 3 other people that weren't able to make it that are interested. It's not a high-cost dollar thing. Just like the call fire department, our entire call wage isn't even the cost of 1 full-time employee plus benefits. And you're getting a good, the town's getting a good deal for what you're getting from our department. All we ask for is the equipment to do our job. We're not getting paid much. Most of the guys on the fire department, the newer guys, are making $12 to $15 an hour. They get up in the middle of the night to go fight fires, to go out in bad conditions, to leave their families. They can go to Dunkin' Donuts make $17 an hour and not even have to make a sweat. So it gets frustrating for our guys that they're giving all of this to the town, and then on top of that, they're being told, no, we're not gonna give you the equipment you need, or making comments that something's a toy when it's something that we need to do to better protect everybody here. It's not right. And that was my sole purpose for coming tonight. I appreciate everything that all you guys do, and it's a hard job you have, and I wouldn't want to be sitting behind that desk. And that's what I'm saying is, keep my money, and I'll see you next year.
So I do just want to make one comment in regards to the camera. So what was left out of that piece of the discussion was there was a lot of talk of, can we get a grant? Now, I'm not saying that you have to wait till next year, because honestly, based on what you just heard here, you're gonna come here and ask for a camera again next year, and guess what? I'm the monopoly man with my pocket sticking out. I don't have the money. However, if we go and we take it down now, so that it frees us up to be able to potentially look at some warrant articles, and the fire department comes back to us when we do the final voting, or even at deliberative, and say, you know what, guys, we tried really hard to try to get the grant to see if we could get a camera. We tried multiple sources. We just aren't able to get it. We can certainly have the discussion about putting it back in. It's just when, you know what, you're hit with the 15% health insurance, you know what? Something has to give. And the one thing that doesn't get brought up ever when we talk about how things work is that we've got the anchor of New Hampshire retirement. You're paying that no matter what. You're paying a high amount into that. That is part of, that's part of the taxpayer dollar. It does pay towards that. So, it's hard. It's not a hard no on the camera. The exact conversation, I believe Mr. Hayes was one of the ones that brought it up, was, you know what? Can we go look for a grant? The police department did a great job as far as being able to do some grants. You know what? You get a 3-4 month window. If you happen to get a nibble on one, hey, great. Now you get the camera. If you don't, we come back, we re-examine it and say, okay, we tried, taxpayer, to get it through a grant. We can't. It's needed. We have to put it back in. That's all.
And I just also want to add, too, that when we started this process, we were 15% higher in our budget when the deputy and I did our budget. And then from working with the Board of Selectmen, we got it down to 7% prior to even coming here. So the problem that I have is, like last year, we had money, I think we had $7,000 taken out of full-time overtime. Well, guess how much we're going to be overspent this year in full-time overtime? $7,000. We're a reactive department. I don't make the calls. I go to them, right? So I have no control over the calls that we get. I can't go and say, okay, I'm going to pull over a car or whatever so I can do X, Y, Z. We're reactive. So, and we're on track right now to do about 800 calls this year. So I'm just throwing it out there. We're doing our due diligence as best we can. We're at bare bones where we are now. I heard somebody also say during your last meeting, well, they have like 32 or 36% left in our budget. Well, also, just like in times past, we've ordered equipment. I ordered a ladder back in April. Still not here yet, $3,500 for a ladder to replace on one of the fire trucks. I have a deck gun. That's the big master gun that goes on the top of the fire truck, $3,500, still not here. That's not reflected in my budget. And I got $18,000 out for fire gear. The fire gear we ordered a year and a half ago just arrived this May. It was encumbered money. So just so you know, when you're looking at our budget and you're saying, oh, hey, they got an extra $18,000 in the budget. Right now I got $15,000 that's not accounted for, that's spent.
That's why I hate the way our budgets are. There should be a committed column. This is how much I know I'm gonna spend. I haven't spent it yet. I don't have the bill.
There is a committed one for purchase orders, yes. Anything over $5,000.
So, but if it's not reflected in the spent, or like estimate at completion.
His are not over $5,000.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would show up under
We could always
encumbrances.
do that if they came to us and asked, by all means. We can
I
do
know
that.
how, so the reports I used to have, it would be like, this is what I've spent, this is what I expect to spend, this is my estimate at completion. So, even though don't have the bill yet, I know it's coming, I'm already committed, it should be reflected somewhere.
But they probably do that.
Right.
Yeah, you know, on their
Yeah,
own
so,
side.
so,
just
yeah, so
not
that's what
in
we
the
do. We
actual
actually have
budget.
our own spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have tallied out what we see we have left in our budget
Right.
based on stuff we already have ordered. So that's why I can tell you where we're at.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to add $8,000 back into the fire budget, please.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Additional discussion, I mean, this is an essential piece of equipment for public safety. Essential, right? I mean, we just heard that from the chief. It's not a piece of equipment that just sits in a truck. It's used heavily, and it's a life-saving device. And I think the original ask was for $14,000. The chief just mentioned there's another unit of similar brand for $8,000, which is still a reduction over their initial ask. And I'm also balancing that with what's the cost going to be next year, right? These things never go down in price, as we all know.
That's
So-
same brand, different model, right?
Correct, yeah.
So if there's an opportunity to save a few bucks now, get a new piece of equipment that is essential to the department, I think it's prudent of the board to fund that.
I think also going back to Mr. Taylor's point though before, we still have several months that we can make adjustments. So if Chief can go out and get a grant, or find a grant, or at least do his due diligence to see if there's something out there, that let him do that legwork, and then we can look at it in a few months.
And then the chief can pull it out of his budget.
And I
The
agree,
chief has that opportunity.
I agree with Mr. Burke, and I agree with Mr. Taylor. It's not that we're saying no, it's something that, let's just
And
let a
I'm
little
fine
time go
with it.
by.
You know, like I said, I'm trying to work with you guys. I mean, is it a need? It's a need, but I do have two others. You know, it does need to be replaced, but if it can't get replaced this year, I'm fine with it. You know, and if, to their point, if I can find some other means of getting it, then we'll try and do that.
So the one you're looking to replace is the 21-year-old.
Correct.
Is that operational right now?
It's operational. It's actually on the brand new fire truck we just got. Because, you know, the other ones, they all have mounting brackets and everything, and it's just too hard to, like, try and move things around, rewire things. So actually, the oldest one is actually on the new truck right now.
But still functional at this time?
It's still functional, yes.
And the other two are, were they 7 years old, 8 years old?
9 years old. Yeah. So the two newer ones are color, and then the the one that's on the new truck, the oldest one, is black and white. And we use the different for thermal layering and whatnot when we're looking at fires or looking at heat sources. So and not to mention, excuse me, just like your LED TV or whatnot, the picture on the black and white is like looking at a cartoon, and the two newer ones are like watching an HD TV. You know, as far as seeing people and being able to make out things.
So just one comment. I will support your motion if it comes back up again after, you know, we find out that there is not a grant option. So I'd be in support of it, just not tonight.
And this $8,000 unit,
I would concur with that as well. I would vote against right now, simply because I think the chief proved last year how diligent he is to go out and find opportunities to save money, and I have faith in him being able to do that again this year.
yeah, so the $8,000 unit, I mean, that will do the job. Will it do it as well as the other two
Yes.
without compromising anything?
Yes, it's basically the same. And the funny thing actually is the camera that we currently have, if I went with that brand with their newer model, it's $18,000. So there's a big difference. And like I said, I want to try and keep the three of them all the same. Because like I said, just for muscle memory in the dark and in the middle of the night.
If the oldest one that you have in the new truck fails, how hard is it going to be to fix or get parts for?
Can't get parts for it anymore.
So if it dies, it's dead.
Right.
And you're without. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And what's the lead time on the new one?
Right now, as far as what I saw, I think we can have it in 2 weeks.
I was, at least as far as this motion goes, I had it earmarked as something that if there was room to add it back in at a later point, because I'd also like to see it discussed as an end-of-year purchase. But that is up to the selectmen.
But I also think if it's gonna be a routine purchase, it should be in the same category as, say, what police cruisers used to be, and be part of a regular cycle and part of the budget, but clearly we need to work on the budget to see if we can get it in a way that we can do such a thing, so I'd like to see it in the budget as a regular purchase, but I also don't like where the budget is, so it's a catch-22.
Anything else on this motion? Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Hayes?
We're voting on,
Adding $8,000 back into 4220 fire.
right, no at this time.
Yes.
Mr. Cutter, yes?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
No as a not yet, so no.
I am also a no as in not yet.
No.
Mr. Taylor? Mr.
Yes.
Barker? Yes. Mr.
No.
Bork? And Mr. Sun?
No, not at this time.
Motion fails at this time, 360. But we have it marked. Thank you for coming in and
Thank you
talking
very
with
much.
us.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all for coming in. Following on this, kind of switching around, if we could jump to 4150, information technology. So Mr. Brunel, could speak to that. There we are. Does anyone have any discussion or questions for Mr. Brunel?
I closed it down by accident. I don't remember what number it is.
4150? Is that what you're looking for? Yeah,
4150, information technology.
Yep.
There it is.
I do have one question, Mr. Brunel. As far as line 740 with the 5 computer upgrades, is that buying new computers? And if so, is that based on that rotation necessary based on full head count of police, fire, and town?
It's not necessarily tied to the head count. The computers that are coming up for this year are not even, I think there's one in the police department and the rest is across the town.
Are they individual use ones, or are
Yeah.
they multiple?
They're assigned.
Multiple
Most of them
people.
are assigned. In the police department, there is a squadron that's a shared set of computers and the rest is all assigned.
Okay. So there's no savings there with the fact that there potentially could not be maybe another police officer that's at the academy for 6 months and another one that may not be hired. Any of these upgrades are not earmarked for those people?
Right, most of the upgrades, if I recall correctly, I believe two are for the town hall side. One is for the highway. And then I believe there's 2 more over in the fire department. And 5 has been the number we've been using. I really could use like 6 or 7 every year, but I've been holding to 5
Sure.
and trying to do as much as I can. And unfortunately, I think, as I said during my presentation, the costs have gone up, and in a lot of the cases, the units I've been replacing also needs monitors. We've reused the monitors in the past, but now most of the monitors are either burnt in or just failing and they need to be replaced. So, that's the reason the increase.
Well, the majority of the increase is tied to one contract, right?
One contract?
One maintenance contract. The majority of your increase needs to be tied to one contract.
I mean, I like to address that too, because I know Mr. Taylor made a comment about we should think about taking the investment we made 5 years ago and replacing it with what he was defined as white box, basically lower end devices. Because, what he said was Cisco, Meraki is going to bleed us to death. Disagree. But I went back and I said, all right, I'll take a look at your idea, right? I think what you assumed was that the $14,000 piece was just, the network switches. It's more than just the network switches. It's the network switches, it's the firewalls, it's the camera system. We have 40 cameras spread around town that all get served by this. If I was to replace all that again, that I just did 5 years ago, when I built it out to be a 10-year life cycle, if I replace that all again, we're looking at $156,000 in capital, plus I'm not doing anything again by myself. I'm gonna hire somebody, plus the labor to do all that work.
Okay.
It's $156,000. For 13, it's $14,000, it's like $13,800 and change. And that is broken across, you know, like I said, we have 13 switches spread across the town. We have, you know, access points which provide the wireless access across all these facilities. The same way everywhere you go, it always works. It always works. As I said, we have about 41 cameras. They're scattered all over the place. There's some up on the remote towers. There's different places that we require security. They're all there and they're all fed by the same system. And they're all cloud managed, which allows us to be able to make changes from anywhere and effectively fix it. This description of this cost also includes the maintenance part of it. If it breaks, I get a new one in the next day. Right? Some of these other boxes, their support plans don't allow next day. It's 10 days later they'll get a send you a part. We don't have spares, right? And I'm one person. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was in the back room taking the firewall out of the racks out of that fan. I had the fan fit, but taking it out was by myself doing it, right? So I'm one person, I can't. You know, I'm not sure how else I can do it any differently. There's also cellular gateways. We have cellular gateways around on remote sites. Also provides a little backup for this facility if we lose our Comcast or Consolidated. But also it's critical to our fire and PD MDT traffic. That's how they communicate back to the back ends. So there's a lot more involved than just, you know, like a simple switch you have underneath your desk at your office, wherever it is. It's not. And when I came here, when I started doing this 15 years ago, I came to what I was defined as white box. It was basically consumer grade stuff that was just slapped together and it was failing, it broke it, and all that. I went off on eBay and bought a bunch of used stuff temporarily. We did it originally. I sweated that for 4 years, and then the board gave me the ability to, you know, fix everything that was broken. So, again, I can appreciate what you're saying.
No, I appreciate the due diligence.
Yeah.
The point is to ask questions, to at least then look at it and figure out, hey, it's viable or not viable. I will tell you right now, I'm probably Mendoza line as far as my batting average in terms of asking about something and having it find us a gold mine. But you know what? 20% is still better than nothing. So I appreciate it, Mr. Brunel. I mean, I do have to at least disagree that the Cisco Meraki piece, they are the highest maintenance. I understand where you're coming from in terms of open Wi-Fi. You know what? You are not going to get the same turnaround service. But across the many industries that I serve, it's through and through
So I
by
guess
far the most expensive.
One thing to consider then is if we're halfway through a 10-year life cycle, then as we start nearing the end, it would be,
What are we doing about it?
what are we gonna do about it? Like, so we're,
Yeah, mixed match is not a good idea.
No, we can't, that's the thing, we had that before. I mean, again, these devices that we have been rock solid.
Careful, you're getting to the point where they get creaky. I've seen it.
No,
I deal with it every
I work
day.
with this stuff all day. These things will run forever in most cases. We don't have a hostile environment. They will behave as long as they've been, you know, we don't have water pouring on them and stuff like that. So, 10 years would be what I would expect. That's what we want to look at. I mean, I have a revolving fund to help me with some of this, to bridge the gap. You know, I would look at in 10 years, what's the status in its life cycle, right? Are they still supporting it? Can I still get the support on it? And if I can, we sweat it longer. There's not like I'm not forced to upgrade. I would probably take it and start, you know, doing small integrated, upgrades to kind of replace older stuff if I needed to. First time would be like wireless access points. Those are the ones that you tend to replace first. If the back end will support it, we'll do that. But in 10 years, you know, in 5 more years, we can evaluate that.
well, I guess my main question is like, what kind of a price tag would we be looking in 5 years, and do we need to
Probably
start
very
preparing?
similar. Probably very similar.
Which was what? And remind me.
$160,000.
So we're gonna be looking for a $160,000 potential upgrade in 5 to 6 years. So should we make sure that your fund is available for that, because so we're not hit with a massive?
Should it be part of a CIP?
That's what I'm saying. Like, why do we
Yeah, I
wait for
think
6 years? And like, oh, now let's start talking about
I
it.
mentioned the CIP. If you remember, just about 3 years ago, we replaced a lot of our compute infrastructure. That's got us 5 to 7 years. So in 2 years, I'm going to start talking about how do we start replacing.
No, not in 2 years.
We already have the pricing. The problem is I can't give you a price in 2 years. I don't know what the cost is going to be. And I don't know where we're going to be. A lot of our applications are moving into SaaS services. We don't need to have as much on-prem. But
But my point is, if it's gonna be say current day's value, it's 160 grand. If we get lucky and with advances in technology, it becomes 120. Shouldn't we start putting away a little
So I
fraction of
replaced
that?
the compute gear was replaced with, at $60,000. That's why the $50,000 mark was there when we did the road quality fund.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
but you understand where I'm going with this? Like, we know it's coming. Why would we wait until the end point to start thinking about how we're gonna fund it when we know it's coming?
So last week, we had already discussed, Ms. Kleiner, you were maybe in the spring, like after budget season, to
Please.
try to put together a vehicle. I would say that these are IT's vehicles. The vehicle
And that's what
and
that's what
building
the revolving
maintenance.
That's what the
We
revolving.
generally have a technology fund.
We do.
Yeah, but if
I
it's
know,
at
you've got the
60,
revolving, but
We
but
can
it's
add-
60,
we
but
can-
if I need 160, it's not
Add more
enough.
money to that over the years if we need to.
That's where I'm going with it. Like, what should we be adding every year so that when the bill comes due, you have the money for it?
I think that will be
and the
captured.
problem is you have to work that in, right? Because the days are probably gone of adding money at warrant article from unassigned. I mean, you can't just keep doing that. It's not sustainable. You have to move away from it. I was,
Bad idea.
I was at a conference on Wednesday and
Well, we're not-
governmental policy, and they said it's one of the worst things you can do. It's a bad habit.
Well, I'd rather
Don't
tax
do it.
more appropriately so that there's no money
Correct.
left over at the end. So, like, philosophically,
It's, yeah.
but reality is, I don't want to wait until the 11th hour to be like, oh crud, we need $160,000. Oh gee, we talked about that 5 years ago. Shouldn't we have been putting money away?
So I would love to continue the discussion on what the better practices are, but seeing as it's almost 9 o'clock and I think we've done 3 of what's on the agenda for our
Like one on the agenda.
discussion.
We redid 2 from last week.
Exactly. Does anyone have any more discussions or motions for IT department?
Just, I just
Mr.
have
Sun.
a quick question for Mr. Brunel. If you don't, if you want to send it to us as a follow-up, it's fine. The Google licenses, the 130 there, it seems high, but maybe I'm just not thinking of certain groups or departments. Could you get a breakdown of how that falls on these names or anything?
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, so I think everybody who does any business in the town.
See, there's 11 right
half
here.
the town gets an account. So right now, we're running about 127 users. And actually, Mr. Taylor, I was gonna give you some money. And Kim doesn't know about this yet because I just got an approval on myself. So if anybody knows that I became a reseller for Google to give the town basically the cost, the vendor cost, right? I just passed another certification to get the cost to come down. So now, I'm suggesting that online, I'm gonna look real quick, where is it?
Go big, John.
It's on the side, it's at 342, it's not gonna be that big, but it's gonna be big.
Every dollar helps.
I'm gonna give you, I can give back to the town $2,400.
I'll make that.
No, hold on. Let Mr. Sun ask the question. Let him make the motion.
I can give back $2,400, but I would like to see that go to the fire department so they get their cameras.
I think it would be.
Now you gotta talk to Ms. Kleiner about it.
So,
But John, you're saying that would come from the Google services line?
yeah, so like I said, when I went into this agreement with the town, when we did the budget last year, when I started the budget this year, the rate was 144 a seat for the year. Because of what I just went through, and I'm not even gonna go talk about what we went through, but what I went through is right now, that cost is, I think, 120 a seat. We've been running 127, 130. The nice thing about the way we're doing it now is that we don't pay for a full year up front. We do months, so I get a monthly bill, okay? And since I passed the thing, the monthly bill's been very stable. So now I'm able to go, okay, I think this is good where it's gonna be. So again, that's why I'm coming back for the $2,400. Now, I'm gonna warn you, when I'm gone, this is gone too. Now, I'm 10 years.
Taking it with you, John?
Well, I won't be able to do it anymore. I couldn't do it that way, but.
You can still sell it to us. You just keep the extra money yourself.
Right.
That's what you're supposed to be doing, right?
That's the idea, but no.
We have a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to reduce line 342 by $2,400.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Oh, come on, Carrie, you gotta second it.
I'll second it, sure.
right.
I was gonna
Motion.
give you the opportunity.
No.
Motion by Mr. Sun, seconded by Ms. Douglas. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
No discussion, just thank you, John.
And just for the record, I've already given back $4,400 to this, since it started, so.
No, I appreciate you guys.
You know what your best gift to me will be?
Well, 2% is $4,280, so I was, I'm above that.
Your best gift to me, John, is when you tell me you made the last payment on the communication tower.
I wish you'd stop bringing that up.
If I'm gonna listen to hydrants last week, you're gonna listen to the communication tower.
All right, Mr. Hayes.
2 years.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
I am a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor, Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Bork,
Yes.
and Mr. Sun.
Yes.
Passes 9-0-0. Thank you for that, Mr. Brunel. I had one more question for you about, and I think I ask this every year. You're still with Verizon? You're still with Verizon on the cell phones?
Yes, we are currently still Verizon.
Is the service still? My Verizon has been terrible.
It's terrible.
It is terrible.
Lately.
Yeah, so,
Is there a opportunity to reduce that bill and also get better service?
One of those little Go phones at Walmart would work.
So where we use it heavily is in the MPPs and some of the remote sites, and the service is rock solid there. I've actually tried T-Mobile up in some of those locations, and it's been whatever. And AT&T is the other thing.
AT&T is much better here, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Verizon, and I've talked to all three carriers. So Verizon is in the process of building out a new site that's supposed to service us much better. I have emails. They've committed to giving us better service up Albuquerque, the whole 9 yards.
Nice. Cool.
Because Hudson's suffering
I do, I
too.
leave
If
the
you
house,
go
I
into
just lose it.
Hudson
Oh,
on
yeah.
102 by Hannaford, this completely drops out. I lose every conference call I'm on.
I can get behind that depending on where the tower's going. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not 100% sure. I believe it's on the end of West Road somewhere.
Okay.
That's what they've told me. They started the construction or in the middle of the construction. They don't have a completion date. But they have also made some adjustments. Now, things have improved, like for me personally, I live down on the other end. It has improved because they've swung some sites from the Morgan back into Litchfield. But we're predominantly serviced by Merrimack, which is one of the reasons they're on it. If you're down on 3A, it's perfect. It's awesome. You get full service. It's great. But you're on Albuquerque, it's horrible. It's all there.
And there's no opportunity for
Well,
a reduced cost
the
either.
biggest problem I have is, so I'm talking to FirstNet, which is AT&T, from the public safety perspective. But in some cases, I gotta replace some gear that I have, and that's a cost, right? Plus, I have to move everything over because of the way the entities work. They have to be on the same environment, right? So I gotta move everything over to that from a secure perspective. So it's something I'm looking at for next year, but it's not gonna change the cost. It's gonna say AT&T or T-Mobile next, or it may say all three, because, I have, so like I said, I've started using some other ones in some places as tests.
Okay, thank you.
And we pay, the rate we pay is equivalent to what we get from all the other carriers.
Okay.
So, we're in the middle of, for this fiscal, next calendar year, this calendar year, we're doing an evaluation, rebill, and rebalancing everything, which will help bring it down a little bit more, but.
Thank you. Anything else for information technologies? Nope. Was that your only budget, Mr. Brunel?
Yes.
Go over?
I have lines in other budgets, but you already talked about those two budgets, so you're good.
Okay. All right. So then with that, I think we can start back at the top with Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Brunel.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
What numbers parks are right?
4520. 4520. Parks and Recreation.
Right here, the porta potties.
When you need it, though.
Does anyone have any motions or discussion on Parks and Recreation?
Like to make a motion?
Yes.
reduce line 730, facility improvement capital outlay. Reduce that by 2,500.
We have a motion to reduce, you said line 730.
Yep.
By 2,500 by
$24.99.
Mr. Taylor.
Well, the selectmen proposed is 2,500.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Douglas. Let's see. And that is for
That was the line that was added at
Playgrounds.
deliberative.
anything. Is that what was added?
No, it was
I
eight
thought-
thousand
I
was
thought it was
added
That's not
on deliberative
right.
last year.
That was the higher, the one for
Which
the.
I believe
It
was, I think it
was-
was 430.
Right,
That was.
That's correct.
yes.
That's what,
That's correct, 4:30.
that's what my motion was gonna become.
All right, then I'll withdraw my motion.
All right.
Withdraw my second.
Motion is withdrawn. Mr. Bork, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I just gotta find the right amount. Why does it say minus 8,000? It's on
Pull back
building.
out.
What's that?
Are you gonna pull 8,000 out for the, to offset the addition from last year?
No, because their proposal this year is 4,500.
That, I believe, that's what Mr. Ames had said.
Right, but then he
It's
said the
actually-
8,000 was in there, so is it in there?
The 12.5?
Yeah,
It should be
12.5.
12.5.
Yeah,
I
it's
believe our
12.5 in the
our
budget.
There is
printed
12,500.
copies
On paper,
are-
it's not
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, online.
That's because it was
Yeah, it went
the
back.
one that was forgotten, it had to go back to the Board of
So,
Selectmen.
yeah, online it's 12.5.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is.
430 is
That would be
12.5.
Line 4,000.
It is?
Yep.
That's where the 8,000.
Actual expense on that line,
Yeah, it
3
is.
years prior, 1433.
Yep.
2822, 1635, and now it's
That's where they
12.5.
added the money for the bathrooms and whatnot, right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna make a motion to reduce line 430 by $8,000.
Second.
We have a motion to reduce line 430 by $8,000 by Mr. Bork, seconded by Mr. Taylor. Any discussion?
This
We already had a discussion with him. We asked him what it was gonna be for, and we asked again, I think, last week, and we're not getting any answers except the repairs.
It's one thing when there was a specific repair in mind, but
Yeah.
without something, it just becomes a catch-all for anything. So if there was a specific plan, it'd be one thing, but I don't think we should continually increase the budget based on one previous specific project.
I heard rerouting the hot water, the water lines underneath the stage area.
Taking out the kitchen.
That's exactly it.
Still
We-
gonna,
That's
still gonna
exactly
leave
it.
$4,500 in there as far as for repairs.
It won't be enough to cover the cost of we have a quote to do it.
Freezing pipes, right, all
So-
that's in there.
So Selectman Gannon, who was then chair of the Recreation Commission, contacted me when I came here. It took a while to get our plumber over there to do it. He had put the money into the budget at deliberative, and it hasn't been done yet, but we've had some other things come up over there that we've been dealing with, but.
So the bathrooms have not been done? The bathrooms were not done?
No, the piping and the hot water heater and all that needs to be done. We weren't gonna do it before the pickleball courts were done because pickleball was using the gym and it's just been logistics, but we do have the quote.
Right, but the monies that were given last year, you just said haven't been spent yet?
That's right.
Right, is that in this year's, that's in this year's budget, right?
Correct.
So what's that gonna be spent on?
That project that hasn't been done yet.
The
So
bathrooms
that's slated for.
or the hot water?
The hot water.
But you
I
said
thought the
that's
hot
why
water's
this
in
is
next
on
year's
here.
budget.
The hot so the plumbing quote is in this budget right here.
Current year, yeah.
Right. It was not done this year, so that will fall to,
That's in the 12.5 for this year. So what's the 12.5 for next year?
It's a just in case, I think.
Well, I mean, they still got 10,600 left over this year.
help me say it clearly. Right.
So if they're not
So-
spending this year's 12.5, they're still gonna do the project, couldn't it be encumbered for that purpose? Like, that's what it's for,
Not really.
so it goes to the general fund.
Yeah.
So we're asking the taxpayers to pay twice for the same project.
They say no, but it can be.
I mean, if they start it, I mean, if they
Yeah.
start it, you can't just encumber funds and never
So
do the
go
project.
cut a pipe.
You're really supposed to have the item, and you haven't paid.
They could start it, yeah.
So I would encourage you, since you already have the funds, to try to get that done this year, because I can't in good conscience support taxing my neighbors twice for the same project.
And if it was so important that it had to be added back in deliberative in
It should've
March,
been
and we're
done.
now at the end of October and it's not done, how important was it?
Yeah, what they put that aside, so, I mean, we did look at other things, but it got too costly to look at the, handless faucets and things of
Right.
that sort, because the piping in the building is so old
It
that,
sounds like a warrant
You'd have
article with
to-
an actual project that voters can vote on, honestly. If $8,000's not enough, let's flesh out the project and put it before the voters.
What's the quote for? How much is it for?
I've got it, high seven.
So the current year's budget should cover it if we get started on the project,
Because there's still
and we encumber the funds.
764 that's still unspent on that line item, so they could.
Yeah,
Right.
let's get started. I
So
would
it's
say.
$7,000 just to like move the hot water heater?
It's removing pipes, it's capping pipes, so the old pipes that are in that kitchen,
Right.
that sink has to come out, you've gotta
Right.
cap all those pipes, you've gotta remove all those pipes, yeah.
But you don't have to remove them, you're capping them.
No, you're capping the pipes where the sink's coming out,
Yep.
you're removing the pipes under the,
The stages.
Actually, you don't need to remove the pipes underneath the stage, just cap them off. I mean, if they're
Just leave them in
copper,
place.
and if they burst because there's water in them, there's no, well, you want to drain them and cap them.
Right.
You want to blow air in them.
So
But it's
if
like
I,
money's
if
available.
I,
Go ahead.
Yes,
sorry.
Mr.
if
Sen.
I understand correctly, if they start some small part of that project in the next few weeks, and we have the funds available to cover the costs being proposed now in this budget, is that correct?
Yes.
The funds can be encumbered.
Yes.
I would encourage that route.
And that project, it wasn't like 8,000 was the expected, and then we discovered additional things. The 8,000 should cover.
it should cover it,
everything.
yeah.
Okay. We were expecting those pipe issues.
Well, I know, but he stood up at deliberative, said how important this project was, put the money in, and then we haven't done it 10 months later. So it's like, so either it wasn't important enough that it couldn't wait till go through the process, or we get the project done, because we have the money for it.
I
Is the-
agree. We have
is-
the money. The taxpayers have already paid it.
Right.
We need to get the project.
Is the plumber available to do it? Is it just a matter of, putting a start date, or are they booked?
So, that I will have to check out tomorrow. They've been very, very good to us about working with us. We had a hot water heater go here, and they were here within a couple hours, so, but I don't know where they are, in all fairness.
But it sounds like we just have to get them started. So just get them started enough that we can check all the boxes.
Madam Chairman, can we call the vote?
Yes, please. Mr. Hayes?
So what are we voting on? Removing
This
it,
is
right?
removing $8,000 from.
She already moved it.
It's all right.
From
like,
line
"You already
438.
Am I not paying attention?
No, it's back to zero.
Yeah, hold on. You go ahead.
This is
We don't need to vote
to
then.
reduce the Parks and Recreation, line 430, by $8,000.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Mr. Cutter? Mr. Leary?
No.
Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Barker? Mr. Bork?
Yes.
Mr. Sen?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 8-1-0.
So if we can go back to 7:30.
7:30.
Was there money somewhere else for this particular thing, or is this something, I know that it's like a 0, then it was $1 last year. Now it's 2,500.
I don't know that there's anything specific tied to it other than fix broken items.
I know that one of the big slides was broken. They had to bring someone in to fix that. And there was a couple other things that went sour there.
The zip line
Yeah.
unit at Dara has been broken for years. There's another, I don't know what the spring thing that kids sit on, bounce on, one of those.
Oh, yeah,
broke.
one of them broke right off, yeah. But they have no money to fix anything if something breaks.
So the monies weren't like in a different category before
No.
this?
No.
All right.
Anything else for Parks and Recreation? Okay. Let's move on to 4130, Board of Selectmen. Does anyone have any motions for Board of Selectmen? I believe this is.
These health insurance numbers are based on current, right, because nothing's been formally approved.
And that's really the only place that. The largest increase is because we've moved it to this
Yeah,
budget.
it's just an employee.
Sorry. All right. If there's nothing on Board of Selectmen, then we can move on to 4130, Town Meeting. Wait, 4130.30, Town Meeting.
We had discussed the voting machines, right? Were they being purchased this year?
So that is something that we are not entirely sure if they will be available next year to us. They're not being purchased. We'll see how next year is, and we'll do it with excess funds. We're hoping. There is a question as to when they'll be available to purchase.
Alright, zero out.
Yeah, it's already been removed. Yeah.
Okay. If there, excuse me. If there is nothing for 4130.30 Town Meeting. Mr. Sun, anything?
No, I'm good.
All right. Let's move on to 4140.10 Town Clerk. Oh, cool. Let's see.
What are we running right now for overtime?
She said there was more. I think we just did it.
Clerk overtime went over. It's over by $261, and tax collector overtime is also over by $260.
Hearing nothing for 4140.10 Clerk, we can move on to 4150.10 Accounting. This was the same, mostly flat, just moved an employee. Anyone have anything for accounting? No? Okay, let's, all right, move on to 4150.40 tax.
Fun. sure you had a lot of fun.
Tax collection. Anyone have anything for tax collection? No? Okay. 4152.10, reevaluation of property. For assessing.
Is next year the assessment year or is it 2025?
2025.
2025.
That'll be a fun number. Upside tax rate might go down because everybody else's values have gone up so much.
Continuing the contract. Did I skip accounting?
Nope.
No, I didn't. I did that. Check it off. Okay. Okay, if there's nothing for evaluation of property, we can move on to 4153 legal. Legal expenses. This was already reduced by the departments by $5,000. Anyone have anything else for legal expenses?
I'm not proposing to increase this, but I feel like it's low.
Well, I mean, we're currently running a contract negotiation. What are we running on this one?
2,500 left.
2,500 left of a budget of 2,500, 25 grand, 26 grand, right? So if there's no contract negotiation next year, then we should be in good shape, so long as everybody crosses their Ts and dots their Is and everything they need to do.
So contract negotiations isn't really a huge part of the legal budget.
You don't have lawyers involved?
There's no counsel in negotiations. You're certified to negotiate. You're fine. They'll do a review of the final contract once it's complete, but the days of having a bunch of lawyers and contract negotiations is kind of past. But we do have a couple of items this year that they will be heavily involved in. Community power for one. So.
Okay, there's nothing further for legal. We can move on to 4155 personnel. And with this one, I believe the Board of Selectmen had already removed some funds due to changes in police overtime. Is that right?
Yes. So the police overtime, when we reduced police overtime, we cut the retirement costs associated with it.
I do have one question on line 990 on the budget. I mean, on the report that we get monthly, it's reimbursed wage expense. On here, it's just wage expense. 20,000 proposed, and it says for non-union performance reviews, yet so far you haven't touched the 20,000 at all. Is that just a timing factor that performance reviews, but if performance reviews take effect at the end of the year, you're not going to spend any of that money? So that line item right now, unspent, remaining balance 20,000, and we're at end of October.
So Karen's gonna correct me if I'm wrong,
Okay.
because this is a new way of doing things for me. That's the budgeted increases for the non-affiliated employees, but when July 1st, when they got their increases, it hit their department lines of salary.
You can't really separate, a little bit here, a little bit there. It just makes it to come to that amount. So you'll see over expenditures in the budget report and those wages.
Okay, so this line item is kind of the master budget. That one doesn't get touched, but it shows up trickled into each department.
It's not
How-
awarded
how-
yet.
As well
Then
as
how
the
do I ever
retirement.
know if you've spent the full 20, dispersed the full 20,000 or not?
And we did a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah,
We did,
so we came out, because I had the same question. I was like, how do I know that this is what it's gonna be? How do I know I'm not going over? That was my concern. And it was like just under,
Okay.
barely. And I
Okay.
was like, wow, how did you guys figure that out? And so.
Okay. Anything else for personnel?
I guess the only other question that I have is the police retirement one. You know, the other ones seem to make sense, that percent left. I would think it would be dispersed pretty evenly over the months of the year. So is it just of the fact that we don't have as many officers and that's why there's still 39% of that budget unspent? So it's just strictly based on
Right, and
quote unquote attrition.
And we are expecting, because we went to look at the shift, we are expecting to see more in November and December because of the holiday schedules and because of how the loss of one sergeant is going to affect us. So you're gonna have a lot of overtime in the next, which will,
Oh, so overtime has an impact on retirement contribution as well?
Yeah,
Interesting.
overtime does, community detail does.
Yeah, no, I just wonder, my old union ones that didn't include, overtime didn't include retirement, so it's.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on personnel? All right, moving on to 4191.10 planning. Does anyone have anything for planning?
I guess same question, is there some sort of odd payment schedule around the NRPC planner? And why that still has almost 70% of its budget still there?
He's slow to bill.
that's it. That's it.
He's slow to bill. So when he forgets to bill before December, then he's out of luck?
No,
I don't think
No,
that's
but I mean, if you can't
We'll reach out.
encumber it, and he doesn't bill it, it's just like the plumber. If the plumber doesn't give us an invoice, then at that point, sorry.
No, well, he did his work. Yeah. January, we're waiting to close the books and saying, where's your bill? Where's your bill?
That covers the CIP work he's doing as well, right? Yeah.
Yep.
With the budget. Yeah.
Hopefully the impact fees.
And the impact fees, yes. That's why I think it went back up over 2023. We had
Yeah.
reduced that. Anything for planning? No? All right, we'll move on to 4191 zoning. 4191.30 zoning. Mr. Sun, you still with us?
I'm still here. Thanks for checking.
All right. Anything for zoning?
Moving right along.
No? All right, moving on to 4194.10, general government buildings.
Done road agent, and road maintenance.
Planning. Trying to see, was there any update on the delivery fee for the gasoline? I believe that was a question.
So, in my memo, I do think that we should go out for an RFP. I do think that that's the wise thing to do, because I can understand when it's an EPA and excise tax. Trust me, stormwater, I can understand EPA fine, but the delivery fee. I mean, I don't know if that's across all companies. I think we should find that out. You know, we just did an RFP for cemetery services, and it shed a lot of light on things. So I do think that'll be one that we put out this spring to check and see exactly what, because there are fees on there.
Yeah, I mean, when you think that we shouldn't be paying certain taxes and we're still spending more than I pay at the store, at the station, kills me. We should be paying less as a government entity, not more. Honestly.
But at this point, there's no.
There's nothing you can do at this point.
I paid $3.49 today, so I don't know where you're getting less.
You shouldn't be paying taxes on as a government entity. So that's that's a sizable percentage right there. That's what I'm saying, though.
You would think you'd get a deal too on 17,000 gallons.
Yeah.
That's what I would think,
Do it
right?
with the Irving card.
Is there a number? Like, you know, how many
about
gallons gets you that discount?
They can use
That's what
mine.
I don't know.
Diverted delivery, like, what size tank do you need so that they don't have to go to fill up the station? They can just come fill up our station.
Have you asked, maybe if there's no time for an RFP, is there time to just reach out to other municipalities and see around what they're paying?
I called across the river. And they're paying more.
So we don't want an RFP just yet.
I'll call this way.
Thank you, I appreciate you for doing that.
If we get the gas station in town, maybe we can work a deal.
Yeah.
There was.
Wait, Mr. Taylor's not here. We should do.
Hydrants?
Quick, let's revote.
Let's see. Is there anything else for general government buildings? I know that I know that we need new chairs, but I have trouble funding chairs before cameras. Let me see here.
In theory, the uncomfortable chairs should make for a shorter meeting. Just saying. For those who are eager to get out quickly.
It doesn't seem to be working.
I can see. It doesn't bother me.
Oh, yeah.
So,
We've gotta go.
You could have a sponsor a chair if you'd like. You put your name on the back of it.
That's a great.
There
well,
you
for the time being,
Yeah, right?
for the time being, I'd like to make a motion to reduce line 750 by $1,000.
Second.
Is that the chairs? Is that
Yeah.
this room?
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah.
That's these.
It's those that the people sit in that are the concern. And we're just gonna start.
I guess standing room only. We don't want
And
to.
like,
Yeah, we'll start removing them because
Can we put in a bench? Like, maybe we can have somebody just put in benches, then you don't have to worry about it.
it's sort of I follow the same line of thought that I'd like to see if we can get this out of end of year funds first, and then potentially add it back in if there's
I'm
any
not
sort of room.
Sponsor a chair.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fundraising opportunity.
So we are on general government buildings.
Okay, still,
And I've made a motion to reduce line 750 by $1,000. Any additional discussion? Nope. All right. Mr. Hayes.
I'm a yes.
Mr.
No.
Cutter.
No.
Mr. Leary. Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr. Taylor.
no.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Bork.
Yes.
Mr. Zen.
No.
Motion passes 5-4-0.
Give them the broken chairs.
we'll put little stars on the back, guys.
I'll take it. I accept my fate.
Sitting room only meetings.
All right, moving on to 4195 cemeteries.
So I understand you went out to bid for next year, correct, for groundskeeping? And where did that land? Because I
We
still
did.
see Dalmatians
Yes. So
invoices and.
we had 3 quotes.
Right.
One was 12.9. Then there was one that was 13 and change, and there was one that was 18. We were concerned about the amount of time, as none of them were local. So they were going to ask some questions, which I think are good questions pointed to ask. We're also gonna put it off, and we're having a discussion internally, I think Mr. Brown noted it, on how we can deal with these costs in-house by adding another employee. So,
Fertilization, certifications not required for cemetery
cemetery.
groundskeeping? Okay.
but, so, yeah, we're working on those numbers to see where it
So the
will
current
fall
vendor
out.
didn't rebid for next year?
He didn't.
Okay, and no local companies bid on this work? Got it.
One local company, but it was very high bid.
Got it.
So the thought would be, you might be able to assume all of this work under a new employee. It's a good chunk of the cost towards an employee, I suppose, so. It's an interesting.
Part-time.
I'm just saying, I appreciate the approach. I'm not sure if it balances out, but I like the thought process.
I think there are a lot more benefits to an additional highway department employee too, besides just this.
There's a lot of benefits to a lot of new services, but there's also the.
I don't think it's new
Cost.
services.
There's
It's
also
current
costs.
services.
And people have seen bills, so.
Yeah, if we can add part-time people instead of full-time, I think we're probably one step ahead.
It's a big if.
That's a big if. I mean, if anybody wants to do the job for a part-time wage.
I meant to ask Mr. Brown, was there hired, like a summer help this summer? I don't remember seeing anyone else.
So he has he has
It's
seasonal, he only had what? Did he apply? For a couple weeks or something? I don't think he had much
Was it just-
seasonal. They were working on the stormwater project, that he mentioned for most of the summer. That's not really seasonal work. You have to have some training for that. So they managed really well with what they put together, like over 500 inspections. Amazing. I don't know how he does it, but he did.
Curious how much time it took just to get to each site. Travel time. All
Can I
right.
ask you a question, and I may have misheard this. Ms. Kleiner, did you say that we currently have no one under contract to do this work?
The seasonal?
Cemetery.
The cemeteries.
Oh, the cemeteries.
Cemetery, yeah.
No, the contract ended as with fall cleanup.
So what happens then? Because we have an obligation to, right? Isn't there some kind of? We have a legal obligation, don't we?
So we let the bidders know that we're putting them on hold while we figure this out.
Okay.
And worst case scenario, if the warrant article doesn't pass, we'll go with one of the bidders.
Okay.
It's one of those. I would definitely keep it in the budget, because if you don't keep it in the budget, then
Well, then this
no one's doing it. But
This number's wrong then, isn't it? If we have to go with one of the one of the contractors.
no, I think we'd take one of the two lower bidders.
Well, I guess my
13 and
question
change
is there
of it.
money, sufficient money in this budget to cover that, even the lowest bid?
Yes.
Okay.
Has anybody contacted Dalmatian to find out if they are interested in doing it? Maybe they just forgot the contract was up?
We have.
And did they
Okay.
express an interest, or?
I think they understand what we're trying to work towards, and that, it is it's a difficult job for like the bittersweet and things that Kevin and his group had to go in and cut down, and so, I mean, Kevin and his group work very well with Dalmatian, together. We could go back and ask him to consider putting in a bid, but it's too late past closing. He didn't bid, I would assume he has his reasons.
So that includes the mowing and the cutting of,
The bids are everything, yes, the RFP was very clear to mowing, spring cleanup, fall cleanup. It
So
just
if-
doesn't include
if somebody-
bittersweet removal.
if somebody volunteered to mow the cemeteries, would that be okay?
That's what they used to do.
Yeah.
But that's when the cemeteries were owned by the cemetery commissions and not by the town. Now it's the town's, so you have legal
Yeah,
issues.
and insurance.
Somebody gets hurt or breaks a
Yeah.
headstone
I thought we had insurance for that.
Insurance on the stones?
On anybody that's doing work in the town, whether they be volunteers or not.
Yes, to some extent, but I don't know if we're replacing contractor work with volunteers, and I would want to leave that up to the cemetery trustees to some extent too, because they have an obligation to be responsible for those headstones. I certainly wouldn't want to speak for them on that.
If you ever talk to Stephen, he's
Yeah.
very particular.
Sure.
I mean,
Well, you get the right person that volunteers, they're particular too.
All right, anything else on cemeteries?
So I guess the other question would be then if fees have gone up, then are we, as we sell lots, if there are any available, is that being factored in to the pricing?
We get a revenue
We
for
did
that.
just raise them a couple of years ago.
All right. Moving on to 4196 insurance. It's all purely contracts.
another increase.
4197.10 advertising. Pretty flat. Everything. Okay, moving on to 4316.30 street lighting.
Let's get more buildings with LED.
I have a quote to do this one.
Nope, okay. Nothing on street lighting. 4321 sanitation. Anyone have anything for sanitation?
I have a question. And first, I should have mentioned when Mr. Brunel was here, but I commend him for wanting to take what he was reducing and give it to the fire department for a camera. And he mentioned his revolving account, and I realized it's for maintenance, upkeep, and purchases for IT. So my question is, the sanitation department's got a rotating or a little slush fund.
Recycling,
Yeah, I still don't understand why that doesn't go back to the town. We spent $18,000 on a stupid sign at the dump, and here we are cutting the fire department a camera that's desperately needed. $18,000 so I can see when the dump is open. I don't get it.
Can I pile onto that just
No,
for a
go right
second?
ahead.
This is a
Two
new
are
sign.
good. This is a miracle.
This is a new sign, just like a new position. It should have gone to warrant. This is the town's money that was spent with just the selectmen's, select teams say so.
I've got to see the sign.
To me,
Have
it
you
should
seen,
be
you
the
haven't
town.
seen it?
No.
I
The
actually,
resident should
for the price
decide.
tag, I thought it was gonna be bigger, honestly.
To be clearer.
Residents should.
Yeah, I was like, we spent 18 grand on
High
that?
definition.
I will say, I drove up, yes, it's a digital
It's
sign.
like a pixelated sign.
It's on the side of the building,
It's like,
but.
You're
we're
saying
When
the
I
sign,
heard
I'm
the
thinking that
price
front
tag, I
sign right when
expected
you
it
turn
to
in with
be a
your
little
hours.
different.
That's not what it is. Okay,
no.
all right.
On the building.
so
Not too
I guess
many
my
people-
question is,
It's on the side of the building, you're focused on.
how much do they
traffic.
have in that account right now? That's taxpayers' money. It's not their money to spend.
Was it the sanitation fund that was used
Yes.
Yeah.
for that? Okay. And isn't that, I thought there was impact fees.
No,
No,
It's separate.
it's the
Okay.
revolving fund.
it's all the monies they get from the recyclings.
Okay.
Right.
So
it's
do we know
user
how much is in
fees.
that account?
It's user fees.
Not really a user fee, we don't pay to use it.
So when I give them a check for a mattress or a TV, does that go into their fund too?
Some of it, because they also pay for a lot of that stuff to get rid of.
Right, but do they make a
So-
profit?
But they take, well, if they'll put that in the revolving, and then they pay out of it. So when they get billed for some of it, so yeah, some of it, they may, have extra money.
So how much is in their fund right now?
Looks like as of August was 44,000. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's before or after sign.
That's a budget. I don't.
I get where you're going, but I also want to just caveat this, right, for Mr. Mellon, who might be listening in, or whomever, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he is extremely responsible with running that.
I'm not saying he's not.
Right.
But there's monies that is revenue that they get that's actually, it's town money. It's not their money.
Great.
I understand he uses it for different things, but so they're sitting on
But it's
40.
also sales of the of some of the items, so, I mean.
So much fluctuation with that cost, if I recall.
Right, so sometimes the sale and the revenue that we make off of those recyclables is good. Sometimes it isn't.
It's pretty.
And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and the recycling market itself is very volatile.
No, I get that, but right now in that fund, it's $44,000,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm. Well, if Karen.
And that's after spending $18,000 on that useless sign.
I wouldn't call it useless.
I don't
That's
think it's
a
useless
chunk
at
of money
all.
that could go towards like equipment or helping pay.
That
for
thing is
parking.
served, I'm at the dump once or twice a week, and that sign has served absolutely no purpose whatsoever to anything that I need to know.
It only serves a purpose if somebody is going to the recycle, as far as town information.
We need
needs to be in a
better
different location.
communication, and that was, I thought, an excellent place to put a communication board. I personally don't know how often it's updated, but I find communication
time.
invaluable.
All the time.
Yes,
Can I
Mr.
add
Sun.
something to this? Because I think part of Brian's point is if there's this fund there and it continues to grow based on money that comes in from fees for things that are disposed of or recycling, how can we look at that money being leveraged for things like materials that are being purchased, supplies that are being purchased that are a part of that budget? Are those things that need, yes, I know we want them in the budget for tracking purposes, but I also think, can we look at that as a fund that can help with equipment and supply type purchases for the dump?
Right, when they're gonna need a
And
new
the source of
Bobcat or skid steer, right? Which we hear every.
Money towards something?
So, yeah, so when they have to do a repair to, their machinery, they'll look to this to see, is there enough money in there to use it? I mean, I'm sorry, I do think that the communication tools that we have in the town are lacking. And I've heard it from residents, and I think that we made an attempt. This is a place everyone goes, right? And we wanted to
Not
use
e-
it as.
A lot of people.
Not
everybody
goes.
Service.
I've never even seen the sign. But
So
I don't go
to
to
be
the-
honest, when I heard a sign, I thought it was closer to the road that people could see as they drove past it.
Right.
To me, that would have been a more valuable location. Having to pull in to see it.
Either way, I think that it serves a different population. So we may get a lot of our information online, and maybe it's a generality, but I would think
Then I
there's a
think
good
we're
amount of
straight
people
to
that are
upgrading.
not online, but do
Sure.
use the dump for sure.
Sure, but if it cycles the same thing constantly, are you actually accomplishing your goal of increasing communication?
I think communication's great.
Because I think all I
It's
saw on it
expensive.
was like the hours. I'm like,
think the
okay,
middle
the
school was
hours are
14,
actually
wasn't
posted down by the
Which one
road.
was?
The middle school's was 14, and it wasn't even electronic. I don't.
We're not going there.
I'm just saying sign costs, like, we
All right,
we
can
got
I
a
ask,
lot of
can I ask a different question? That's not about the communication sign? What is the process to be able to extract from that fund?
That's approval by the Board of Selectmen. So it's Mr. Mellon is, you
Okay,
know,
so
would make,
if-
and then we'd bring it to the Board of Selectmen.
If, for example, we reduced building repair and maintenance down to $1. So, hold on, hear me out for a second. Then the budget was for $2,775. How hard would it be, as there is building repair and maintenance, to draw off of that fund?
I guess one question, what's the annual replacement, how much they
If
generate?
it's related to recycling.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If it's related to recycling,
What are you looking at right now, Scott?
My point is that, okay,
I know what you're saying.
if there's the 44,000.
Is it on this or?
Well, yeah, so like, if, for example,
In
if I
there
took
right now,
line
50,000.
430,
Right, but how much do we put in a 12-month cycle?
and
How much is
I
put in-
slash that down to
Roughly.
$1, so
it
that it
would
was still
change,
there.
because the prices that you
$200?
came in last month.
Make the motion?
Six.
600?
So it's up to,
6,000.
it's up to 50,000 that you said?
I think Mr. Mellon should answer the questions,
I do
because he's the
too.
one that has the knowledge in this
Did
area.
you say it has to be spent on recycling related though? Is there like, is that,
Recycling
It has to be
related.
related.
okay, so there's like
Yeah.
the fund has a
But then
charter
like,
of some sort?
but doing repairs to the asphalt in front of it would work, or the skids, the
Wait,
repairs
I'm
to
sorry, what
equipment.
has to be, like, on
He's done
repairs?
buildings, he's done building, siding
Siding on the
on the
recycle.
recycling center, he's fixed the
Okay.
roof on that
buy
recycling
camera.
center, so. I mean,
No, but I
But
mean,
you
then
could
it could
offset
free,
something
yeah.
else, yeah.
Does he have a plan?
So it could be
for-
spent on building repairs.
So yes, there is,
In the budget,
I'm sorry, say that again?
like the expenses that Ms. Kleiner just mentioned, were those things that were in the budget or things that were identified outside of the budget?
Outside.
And then that fund was leveraged to do that work?
That is correct.
outside.
They're outside the budget.
But that fund can be used for items such as building repairs and maintenance.
Or
It's
dues?
recycling.
If it's on the
related.
recycle.
And if it's in the budget.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking at right now.
Well, now I'm pivoting to dues, because dues looks like a bigger number.
Well, no. Well,
So then you could drop that one and feed it off of that fund, which gets replenished by money that the town gets for recycling.
And there's a bigger one too coming.
So is there a motion?
630.
Well, I'd like to know
Yes.
also if he's saving up for something. Is there something that he has in mind that he's been saving for to use those funds for?
I would like to get the answer to that.
I would recommend that we,
Sign it.
I like this line of thinking. I think I agree with what some people are saying, but I also agree we should have Mr. Mellon here to answer some of these questions. And I think to come forward and say, this is what this money is used for. This is where the money comes from. This is how much that account approximately grows each year. And these are future projects that I have in the next 12 to 18 months that could be leveraged from that fund. Because I think that would give us all the information we would need to make any potential motions. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion then, and maybe we'll get Mr. Mullen here like we did the fire department. I'd like to cut the bottom line by $10,000.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bork to cut 4321.10 by $10,000. Bottom line. Do we have a second?
Sure.
I mean, just looking at some of the line items, you got repairs and maintenance. You mentioned that's what the money's used for. It's $5,200. Then the $2,500 Mr. Taylor mentioned. And then you get $9,000 in dues.
I agree with you. I'd like to see what they've used it for in the past. If he's already using that money for maintenance historically and we just haven't accounted for it, then that could be a problem.
I'm not opposed to Brian's thinking, but I would rather have a chance to talk to Mr. Mellon first.
I agree with
And I
that.
think we should, because I'll tell you that, there is a town not far from here that just got closed down, and that makes a big difference when you're a community that has a transfer station, and boom, you don't. Because the state comes down and puts a big sign across because your people aren't, and that's that dues. You have to be certified and you have to get your licenses. If you don't, they will come and shut you down.
But I'm not saying that we take it away, I'm just saying it gets funded by that fund. That's all. It just doesn't come out of the general budget, it comes out of the proceeds of the fruits of recycling.
But that's not all recycling, that's regular transfer station license, that's a regular transfer license. Not necessarily related to recycling.
Right, but I mean, if he uses that money to fund the people that work the transfer station. Again, I'm gonna fall into the same category. I'm willing to hear from that department head before saying yes. But I agree that is going, if there's no answer, then come next time, final voting, yes, I'm in.
I'm with you.
I'll retract my motion then to hear from Mr. Mullin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion has been retracted.
Hold back my second.
Thank you. Anything else for sanitation at this point? Nope. All right, moving on to 4723.10 debts.
What number was that?
4723. All the way at the end.
At the end?
Debt service.
Yeah.
I have to swipe really far. I got excited.
I just moved it.
Not much you can do here.
Anything? No.
Actually, you know, I'm sorry, I do have one question. Is this budget number after impact fees paying what's due? So let's, you know. The
Should've been
the
140.
110 that's approved for line 980, that's 110 after we apply impact fees?
Yes, and it should have been 145.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else. And
I think Karen is the one that wants us to end quick. She just filled it in again.
as long as I didn't skip any
I
by
like
mistake. I believe that concludes our town voting for this evening. And
Madam Chair, do we have an updated summary of where we are below the tax cap after tonight's motion?
so I have to add them up here. I have that we have reduced it by an additional 13,400. Nope, 11,000. I can't add.
11,000.
11,000.
11,000. Yep, I added wrong. Who put me here? So that would make budget committee cuts total 101,529.92.
Thank you. So that currently puts us $62,408 below the tax cap.
No. No.
Thank you.
No, right?
I'm at
14.
No, we were at 62.
We were at 51.
62,409.
68.
Sorry, it's fluctuating on my screen. It was just 39 a minute ago, and now it's 62.
It was.
Yeah, no, I just had the wrong
62.
sign.
Okay.
62,409 was the number I said. Is that not correct?
That's
That is
correct.
correct.
It's been
That is
fluctuating in the Google sheet in front of me.
Oh, wait a minute. 64? Did you say 62?
62,409.
Did you say 11?
11,400.
Yeah. It's not.
This is 64,809.
Did you
The
type
si-
into it? Did you-
Mine says
Is that taking into
62,409
account
at the moment.
the insurance changing?
That's the increase of
too.
the insurance line above it.
No, I'm asking, it's
So
64,000.
So
Yeah,
if you had a screen over here, you would see that there's a line above it that says 59,000 for increase with health insurance. I can see it above your head. So there has the new insurance
so am I.
line factored in.
So they're showing the decreases in.
So I got
That they haven't actually taken yet, yes.
Yeah, that's what you got.
It just refreshed again to
But here-
64,809 now.
here,
What is?
It just refreshed on my screen. I don't get it, man.
So what's your operating
get
budget
yourself.
back to 2020?
$60,000, which is really 115, so
you
assuming
did?
It's gonna be
Well,
magic.
just under.
So we're not
Budget
under right.
committee.
It's gonna go to
Right.
64.
You actually
Technically,
refreshed,
no,
right?
because it hasn't
So,
been approved.
so
Yeah,
where
ones
are
that
we
they
right
were
now
approving.
without the insurance
So,
changing?
that's an excellent question.
So
So
add
ask.
another 55.
plus,
So we're 7,000 under.
64,809.
Yes.
Yes. Right now, realistically, we're
Ghost
only
and
$7,000 under.
I actually agree with you.
A lot of 5% task.
Which isn't enough for a camera.
No, not yet.
the summary tab is correct.
7,000, please.
The summary tab or the tax cat tab or both?
Summary tab
Okay.
is correct.
Actually, both of them are right now, Andrew.
But to
Both of
Mr.
them are
Berg's
right.
Both
point
of them are
though,
right. Okay.
this number is assuming something that hasn't happened yet though.
64,808.
I know.
The only thing we know that happened is our insurance went up 15.6%.
Right, so the reality is it does,
So
Oh,
well,
rather, we have to wait till-
64.
I don't know that they're both right because I see 64,809 on the tax cap tab,
Which is,
and I see on the summary tab 62,408. So there's a $2,000 difference somewhere.
No, there's a, Andrew, it looks like there's a 7-cent difference.
64 to 62?
64.
I see 62 on both of them.
Holy moly.
You see 62 on.
Did you refresh?
I just did
What?
refresh.
No, him, no, JD.
AF 64 as well.
That's what I,
on taxes.
871.
I'm still seeing the discrepancy.
You're seeing 2,000? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
64,809.
The selectmen
But then on the
proposed-
summary tab, it says 62,4.
It's a
I
selectmen
see what you're saying, yeah.
Oh, yeah, so this one says 59,570.
minus the 9.
And
And it was 11.
So I think there's a reconciliation needed, right? But
Yeah.
in any event,
Correct.
it
I don't think
did.
we have to do that right at
Stop
this
it.
moment.
I think
What-
an external audit is warranted.
No, we'll have it right, but
Find it.
Well,
that is correct.
well,
So-
what I think
That's
we.
correct, the
no, well,
62 is correct?
Yes and no. To Mr. Burke's point, I think you should put in the number with the current insurance, with the current increase, and then below the line, put if everything lines up and if everything gets approved, this is what it actually is. Because right now you're rolling in something that we're putting our eggs in the basket that may have a hole in it.
When did you
No,
say?
because
Or,
we gave you worst case there. So I could have an employee that decides to go from the POS to the site of service and you just saved 27%. I didn't bank on that for that number.
I know, but
I banked in them going
But
to the
isn't-
highest cost plan.
Right, but isn't that all of that tied to the contract being approved? What if the contract gets rejected? Where are we then?
So,
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not gonna change, but right now, that's not the case. Right now, our insurance is at a 15.6% increase from last year, and that's what we should be looking at as far as numbers, until the new plans have been received and accepted.
so,
I agree. I agree.
okay.
So just saying, above the line, you should carry what we know today. Below the line, you could say, if everything gets approved,
It's
this is what it
it's
comes.
management's decision, it's the board of selectmen's decision on what health plans the town offers. They have that right. So at very worst case scenario, the union could continue their current health care through June 30th, only.
Okay.
Because as of July 1st, we would change it. Nothing by contract.
Because there would be no contract, you could change it. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying as of July 1st, that either they're gonna have a new contract or no contract, and we can change it. Because the board has the right to change the insurance plans, and one of them isn't gonna be offered by Health Trust, so you can't have it. So, I mean, a worst case
Doesn't the union-
scenario.
Doesn't the union have to vote on accepting the changes? Number one, and number two, the selectmen haven't voted on changing the insurance, correct? So right now.
Give me a couple weeks and,
That's fine. So in a couple weeks, you can come back and give us numbers. But right now, the number is 15.6% increase at $108,000.
no, because the unaffiliated employees are taking it January
Okay.
1.
So what's
Is
the,
that number only the unaffiliated employees? The 59?
No, so if it would, I mean, I can go back. Yeah, do you have a spreadsheet open?
No, sorry, I was
It's like
trying to figure that out.
probably $20,000. I can go back to my office and get it, and it's probably $19,000 or $20,000 that is the union that you'd add back in, which is gonna come back out.
no, I hear you.
So I guess
And we'll
my-
probably have more savings than that. I gave you worst case.
So my question is so this is what we're planning on right now, and then you'd expect to update these in a few weeks?
Yeah, so they have the, when's on it?
Our enrollment starts January, 1. It's our new enrollment.
January 1?
No, well, so we started, but our open enrollment will start, it's a minimum of 30 days, so it will start November, really. For January 1, change.
Do they have to declare by December 31st or by November 30th?
November 30th,
By
December 1st.
November 30th, December 1st, yeah.
All right, so,
So,
We try to, so it
go ahead, Gary.
just moves
so
clear.
it's a similar position to what we're in every year where we get the insurance numbers anyway mid-December.
Yeah.
So we don't final vote this budget anyway. We still have room to make those adjustments. So we can finalize it with
That's
November.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is our December 14th meeting, which is scheduled to be warrant article presentation, that by then, we will have those numbers, should be accurate, and we
Right.
can make any necessary changes at that point if we need to.
Yep, and we'll be voting probably warrant article number 1 or 2 or whatever this one ends up being.
And that's where we can revisit fire department and other things that others may have earmarked. Revisit,
Yep.
okay? Oh no, I just gotta read my agenda.
Updates, right?
I believe so, I just want to double check. So, no one has anything else on town voting? So as it stands, we are $62,408.93 under the tax cap with expected updates coming December.
Yeah.
But take 50 grand.
Expected updates coming December.
And
All right.
We're under the tax cap. We
We
decide by how
have
much.
town business general updates. Mr. Leary, do you have anything for us?
This is it.
Budget season, yes.
So I do have one question in regards to the town. Where are we gonna end up as far as expected end of year surplus? Now that
we're
just
still
about to roll
working
into
on it.
November 1st.
We're still working on it. We haven't.
Ballpark?
No, I'm not well.
Give me, you're gonna be
really can't.
over, or you're gonna be at, or under?
So, we're never gonna be over. If we're gonna be over, so I
That's
think
not
I'm leaving, but,
Let's do
but
that.
yeah, we're working on a lot of different things at the moment and, doing cash flows and everything else, so. When do you want Mr. Mellon here, if I may?
Let's see, our next
Next meeting?
Guess it would be final.
Our
next
next-
town
Yeah, our
meeting.
next meeting will be in November, so, can we, Ms. Kleiner, can we revisit that after tonight's meeting? I can email you about that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Perfect.
And next week, are we at the fire station next week?
Wait, what?
Do you know when
We should take that.
where the school board budget meetings are? Is that in the fire station?
Invites went out.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I think it
I have
is.
all that information here in a few minutes.
Why would it be at the fire station?
There's
So what was
combo
last
time? Availability.
meetings,
Community room.
school
Community
board
room.
meeting. The school board budget review.
Yeah, but why at the fire station?
There's a camera set up.
Yeah, it's LCTV.
That's what we did last year.
I know.
That's what we did last year. I think planning board is here too.
They have nicer chairs.
I was gonna say, they got comfy chairs.
Oh, see now the truth comes out.
Safe,
Gotcha.
safe, comfortable chairs.
Safe, yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Should wheel a few over.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Leary?
No, not really.
No, thank you. And,
I told you about Halloween next week. That's about it.
all right. Review of expenditures. Did anyone have any questions on the budget report that went out? No? Okay. And I believe we can move on to school business.
School business, yes. So in front of each of you, Mr. Sun, there wasn't an extra, but we'll get you one. There is a clip of the budget that came out today. So you have that in hard copy. I will note, and I will make an extra note, and I will repeat it a third time, that it is a draft. Draft, 3 times, okay?
This is it, right?
This is a draft, right? The school board is just receiving this today as well, right? So we haven't had a chance to talk about it, we haven't had a chance to review it. You're seeing it at the same day, at the same time as the school board.
I'd be curious if you had the same reaction, because I can tell you what mine
Haven't
was.
even looked at it yet. Haven't even looked at
I
it.
choked.
Right, so our school budget review begins next week, November 2nd, then November 7th. The board will be meeting at a special meeting on November 8th, just to continue our deliberations about the budget. That was not a previously scheduled meeting, so we're gonna meet November 8th, and then again November 15th. The budget committee will be first, I think, taking a look at it, or really getting into the debate of the budget starting November 16th, and we want to make sure that the school board has at least a couple of weeks to review it, to make decisions about it. And so again, what you see here, what you have in front of you, draft.
So,
Mr. Cutter, I want to speak to that real quick.
Throwing things out.
Just a couple of things on that. So for our committee, as a reminder, the 2nd and 7th are school board meetings. The school board facilitates those. They're joint meetings. They are recorded. They're at the fire station. They start at 6 p.m. I know for myself, I will be there on the 2nd, but I'm out of town for work on the 7th, and I'll plan to watch that video. So hopefully everyone's able to either make them or watch those videos if you're not. Mr. Cutter alluded to this. We have a slight schedule shift on what we had originally discussed for the school process. First, I want to say thank you for the school board for delivering the budget on the date that we had discussed back in June or July. This might be the earliest that we've had the school budget since I've been a part of the budget committee, so I appreciate that, the effort that went into that. To me, I think it's really important that the school board has as much opportunity to go through this, to ask their questions, and to make the necessary votes, much like the Board of Selectmen does as well. And so because of that, Mr. Cutter alluded to a special meeting that they're going to have on November 8th, as well as they're going to have a meeting on November 15th. And those are going to be their 2 opportunities as a school board to make any cuts that they deem that they need to do. Because of that, we're going to start our review process on the 16th. What our original schedule called for was that we were going to meet on the 9th and use the 16th as a tentative meeting if we needed to. We're going to switch that. We're essentially going to say we're not going to meet on the 9th. We're going to meet on the 16th. Will be our review session. And I think what that's going to allow us to do is we're going to get the school board's best budget. We're not going to have to worry about them going back and making cuts after we've already started our process, which is what has happened in the past. We're going to get their best budget, and that's going to allow us to then start our work. So we'll start our review on the 16th. We'll have a full meeting where they will come in and share updates. We'll have opportunities to ask more questions, just like we're going to have the opportunity to ask questions on the 2nd and 7th. And then our voting will start on 11/30. So that will be 2 weeks later. That's the week after Thanksgiving. And we have voting scheduled on 11/30 and on 12/7. The good thing about that is because we're starting voting on 11/30, that's a month from now. So we have a month with the school budget for us to review, to think of the questions we want to ask. If you're not able to attend the fire station meetings over the next week and you have questions, send them to me. Those will get captured in the Google Doc, and we'll make sure that those get answered in 5 minutes. Sorry for interrupting, Mr. Cutter, but I think that covered everything I wanted to say on that.
It did. Thank you, sir.
So, obviously I haven't had a chance to look at it, but do you have insurance numbers yet? No, right?
No.
You know, when, I
Not
know
sure.
they're normally late, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I'll just reiterate, I'll recap everything that I just said in an email to the budget committee and make sure I include LCTV ops, superintendent, and everyone, just so everyone's aware of the schedule moving forward.
To, I think one other change that was talked about amongst the board last year and is now in place this year and within the budget that you'll see is instead of names of individuals, you'll see employee ID numbers. So we're not publicizing personally identifiable information. There is a table behind it. If
You guys do realize don't they put them in the town report?
it will be with the employee number going forward.
Interesting.
The town still lists theirs by name.
I don't think I understand what
It's
you're
always
doing,
been
but
done.
it's a departure from how it's always been done.
You're right.
And
It's a complete
I
departure.
don't condone that, so it's just, I don't think it's
I think
appropriate.
it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I don't think there's any advantage or disadvantage of knowing
Well, I
who
mean,
the
'cause you
person
can,
is.
no,
We are
it's
publicly
public
making
record.
available personally PII, personally
Yeah, but
identifiable information,
the
right?
government
Where
don't- you can
that
prove
by
it.
law is non-public.
But that's, I question that because you can go into like the federal database and put in a person's ID number or name and figure out what their federal salary is.
You could, we're just making it a little harder.
It's not appropriate though. It's taxpayer funding money. Like, do people have a right to know where it goes? I think you
Anybody has
created a
any questions about what or
Oh, no, we
who?
discussed it last year. I just think we created a situation that didn't, we created a solution for a problem we didn't have. So now people are gonna wonder why you did it.
I think we did have.
What are we trying to hide? So well done in an attempt. It's obfuscation.
Carrie, this isn't a conspiracy.
That sounds like a
This is
school
not a
board meeting
conspiracy
discussion.
theory.
Can we table it to a school board meeting?
You're spinning this like it's a conspiracy theory, and
I'm
it's
not. I'm
not.
saying
What we're
it's-
trying to do is we have
Her and Mr.
staff
Cabral
and
should go to the same
faculty,
meeting.
right, that their information should be protected. No different than anybody else.
I disagree with you on that one. And it's not that I would want any harm to them. I'm just saying it's always been published. It's in the town reports. It's taxpayer money.
So now that we know the school board's decision on this matter, we
You
can
have a
tell
problem with that, I would
anyone
go
that
to the
has
school
an
board meeting
issue
with Mr.
this-
Cabral and you guys can like discuss.
Because they sit there with a
Anyone-
stone face and answer you.
Do I need to use the gavel?
Oh, I would love it if you used the gavel.
Oh, I didn't know we had a gavel.
Yes.
I mean,
Anyone
I've
that
looked
has
at
an
it, but I've
issue
never
with
actually
it,
used it yet, recognized.
Anyone who has an issue with it can go to a school board meeting,
I do think this
and
is
we can
down
also
on the-
answer the questions that people ask.
On the town budget, you know, if you look at their spreadsheet, there's no names listed.
There isn't.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah, there is.
It's been-
Yes, there are.
is. Look at the police line.
you
It
go
tells
to
you
the-
officer this, officer that, officer
There
that.
absolutely are
What they
names.
made.
The police line does, but like,
Perhaps that,
Not
the
all.
other town employees don't have names.
Some of them do, but not all of them do.
That's
Some
right.
of them say patrolman.
Because they don't-
Fire.
Yeah,
Fire
right.
does not have
It says
names
town
listed.
clerk, granted, we have like one, so you can figure out who it is, but like.
We'll change that.
Apparently you should.
At the end of the day, Carrie's right, it's public information, it's out there, you can find it. I think the idea is, as we're going through the budget, it's not about looking at people, it's about looking at the numbers behind it and what makes the most sense. So, yes, it's public information, yes, anybody can find it, but at the end of the day, when we're going through the process of looking at the budget, it should never be about names, it should be about the numbers.
And I will remind the board, because this came up last year and I think the past couple of years, where we actually have employees with the exact same name and they are different individuals. And we have employees that have left the district, that have come back in the district, and having a unique employee ID fixes that, right? Where you're now able to report at the individual level where it was very hard to do that before.
fabulous. Thank you, Mr. Cutter. Anything else on the school board?
I don't agree either.
Anything else? I don't think it's our purview. Anything else on, for school board?
Remember when we used to get out at 9:30?
Remember we used to end at 11:30?
I actually pulled up the, I
Last
pulled up
week
the
was
bylaws
9,
while
I
I'm
think.
sitting here.
I'm splitting the difference, because last week was 9.
11:30 twice a week?
Everything was fine till Mr. Sun here like joined our meeting tonight.
Anything else for school updates?
So will there be a summary of the, because it looks like each one of these is individual, so do I have to
You
add
will
up
get
each
a
one?
new budget
Okay.
in a binder once it's a little bit more final.
No, I know, I just didn't wanna have to go to the
Wow.
added total to each one of these.
All right, I'm gonna retract the binder. I don't know. I think the
I
binder.
saw roll punches, so I can stick it in my binder. These
remember it right last year, I brought my own binder.
Bring your BYOB, guys, I don't know.
Michelle used to have binders, but you cut so much money. Oh wait, there's 1.5 million in extra.
Okay, if nothing else for the school.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
And thank you, Karen.
What's the whole budget up?
If nothing else for the school, we can move on to member input and new
Asking
business.
about, not complaining about.
School facilities, any updates?
They had a meeting which I was not able to attend yesterday.
Right.
Mr. Sun, were you able to attend?
I was
Talk to
not.
you.
Okay,
Why not?
I have not had the opportunity to view it as of yet.
okay. Thank you. Capital improvement.
Meeting's forthcoming. I believe they said the 6th.
November 6th.
All right. And energy committee. I don't know
I'm
if
gonna
they've
be
met.
a broken record on that, but I was still unable.
I'm not sure if they've met, but I do know that the survey is still online and there are paper copies at town hall.
Maybe we should put it on the board at the recycling center.
It might be, I don't know. All right, next. Okay. I will open it up for our second,
We know what we're dealing with.
our second community input, and seeing as our
Oscar,
room
wanna
has
say
cleared
anything?
out, I will close that second public input and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
A second.
Motion by Mr. Hayes, second by Ms. Douglas. Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Cutter. Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
I am a yes. Mr.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Barco. Mr.
Yes.
Bork. Mr. Sun.
Yes.
With that, our motion, or our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us, and our next meeting will be with the school board on November 2nd. Thank you very much.